The Kusile Maswati lamahla nginibingelele nginemukele emsakadweni channel Yemaswati igama lami ngikhanyisile mabuza kanti ke la ngikanekise khona kuse Hilton Garden Inn Hotel eMbabane. Namuhla ke kunalomkhulu umsebenzi we World Consumer Rights sihlangane namuhla nemlamuli wetindzaba tetimali lokuthiwa pheceleti i-Ombudsman ye-Financial Services sitekutawuletha lelu hlelo lelu leku-celebrate i-World Consumer Rights Day. I-theme yalo nyaka ke ngesingisi sithi kuyi a just transition to sustainable livelihoods. Lesithi pheceleti ihlokothe ukuthi sithole lushintsho lutawuletha impilo lekhonzako. Lesinabo ke namuhla la eHilton simeme ma stakeholders ethu lamaningi sikanye nebaka Eswatini Public Procurement Regulatory Agency nebaka Eswatini Energy Authority kanye baka ESERA. Nanamanye ma stakeholders sinabo baka a peculiar people, sinabo baka civil society, baka Eswatini Legal Aid. Sitawushirana lugwayi ukuthi ema consumers sitawasita kanjani ukuthi akhona loku achieve lolu shintsho letawuletha impilo lekhonsako. Kabanti iphinze simemetiva kashitetfu letiqhamuka phesheya lebatawuba nathi nge-virtual participation ngeZoom bakhona baka Competition and Consumer Protection Commission eZambia kanzi futhi ema-partners etfu aka COMESA Competition Commission. Sitawushirana lugwayi sidebate discuss ukuthi how as consumers can we achieve this sustainable livelihoods equitable and just.
Mhlambe nje umbuto wekugcina ngiyeva uyabaya ama-organizations lakhona ma-organizations ngamsele ningisebenzisana nawo noma mhlambe you're forging a new relationship nabo bonke kuze ukuthi kutawuzuza liswati nekuthi ke liswati lizuza ini ngekwati ama-rights alomthengi.
Ngiyabonga mabuza cha lawasho ukuthi ma organizations lese sine relationship nabo le jule kakhulu ndawukhumbula nje ngemalanga lengcile sasayina MOU kanye nawo lalamanye awadi ema rights abo phinze ama consumers akhone ku enforce ema rights abo akhone ukusukumela akhulume asho ukuthi lokhu ama rights abo akhone ukusukumela akhulume asho ukuthi lokhu akusiko longilukile. Ngiyabonga mabuza.
Siyabonga kakhulu. Uchamuka khona ke nga Competition Commission osichazele kabanti ngalo lelanga lanamuhla kanti ke kuthi amathutane sibe sikhulumisana nalababuya ka Ombudsman utasichazela kabanti naye ngekubambisana kwabo kanye nabo ke be Competition Commission kanti ke umsebenzi utawucala kule mizuzu lesihlanu lelandzelako sesivele sinaye Makeno Ndumiso Simelane losonzelako lana atasicocela kabanti kule mizuzwana lemincane leseyikhona ukuthi ngabe bona ngisiphi isandla labasifakako. Siyavusela Mnguni ninjani?
Siyavusela Tsatswethu nebabukeli bakho.
Siyava ukuthi umlamuli wetindzaba tetimali ukhona naye kulomsebenzi ingabe nje ngiliphi iqhaza mhlambe leni idlalako etindzabeni tema rights ama consumers.
Inzima lesidlalako uma kubuywa emalungelweni esive kulo sine sibele tikhalo tesive maloko lokusamali kufaka ekhatsi tikhwama temhlala phasi kufaka ekhatsi imishwalense kufaka ekhatsi tinhlangano tekongane kwebolekisa so akufanani lokulesendako kodwa kukhona lufanana ngekuthi Competition Commission unaloluphiko lolucatululako tinkinga tesive nathi sineke sakhelwe kusivele sitewusombulula tona tinkinga tesive kodwa etinhlango third floor bangafika kanzi sinawo nemakhasi kuleti tekuchumana abantu labasha labatati kakhulu njena sikhona ne website sinayo tincingo ke nato ungatishayela uma ufikile ku website yethu utawuthola kabantu lokuthi ngimaphi lamanye emakhasi lo ungakhona ukuthi uwavakashele ubone ukuthi
kushiyela naligwayi. Manje-ke nashiyela naligwayi ngeke sixoxe sodwa sila sibakangwane, sithingana laba bekuhamba kunaboza kwethu labachamuka ka-Competition Protection Commission yaseZambia. Is one of the oldest consumer protection organizations sicishe nathi siqushiswa ngabo kulokunenge. But awungena-ke layinini awungena director lobukade consumer protection wakhona. Kuphinde futhi kube nebaka-Commerce Competition Commission latabe basijoyinile nabo virtually. Kushiyela naligwayi ukuthi nje angeke sixoxe sicede sisodwana sithingana laba bekuhamba ngoba bona sebahambile le ndlela before.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu Mshengu. Umaswati lamahle senda uchubeka nethamele umsakazo wethu Yemaswati nase emakhasini ebongcimba mshina khona ke ku social media yakhona ka Competition Commission neya ka channel Yemaswati nesiciniseko ukuthi niyawulanzelela lo msebenzi. Lesikhatsanya lo ngidake ngithi kancane Kevin nasibuya kutabe sekuvele sekucalile kusetshenzwa ngakhona ngalapha.
Today is we are commemorating World Consumer Rights Day as a country, a day that is commemorated globally on the 15th of March. The actual day is tomorrow, the 15th of March at the global level. But that's what we are commemorating it today. The reason being that it's a working day today and tomorrow it's a week, but it doesn't mean the theme is just world consumer rights day is just transition share information with consumers. That is why we are having it virtually as well. Those that are at home are joining us through channel Yemaswati YouTube channel, and also we have shared links on our social media platforms. As you will know that we are commemorating this day in partnership. We are hosting it with the Ombudsman for Financial Services, OFS. So together with them, we have shared links on our social platforms, so we'll be joining through those. Because ngibona bamcoka kakhulu abalabasemakhaya. And si commission ke mhlawumbe umuntu angaveta la ukuthi lelanga leli siyali commemorate every year kwala nangesikhathi se COVID. Sabathe siyabuka ngeke sikhona ukuhlala sibuthane sibe ndawonye, but what we did was we tried to organize webinars during COVID. Saba now discussions on commemorating World Consumer Rights Day, because it's a very important day. As you know that we are working at Mbabane consumers, and eminyakeni lophelile saya etinkhundleni. We are not just about boardroom meetings. Saya etinkhundleni lalapho khona bese engage nema consumers face to face. That's what we do in partnership with OFS, in partnership with government departments and other regulators and partners. So siyabonga kakhulu for coming here today to be with us. Siyanemukela phakathi kwethu sinabo CEO labaqhamuka from different organizations, and I do not want to waste time. Otherwise, I would have said, please introduce yourself if you wind up. The time is not permitting, but you are welcome and thank you for coming. We wouldn't do it without you. At this point in time, I will ask Mr. Kulisumno Fulamini to kindly open the event where Mr. Kulisumno Fulamini, please come and ushaktel. Siyabonga. Sicela umshayitani la this is tense man kakhulu angithanzi. Buyankosi.
Sanbonani. Just to share, I think a scripture in Matthew 18:20 that speaks on if 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, most of us we interpret it within the context of church, but in the culture of where we work, we try our best to involve Jesus in every process. In light of that, I'm being so that you can open up with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, in the mighty name of Jesus, siyabonga Baba for the opportunity, oh dear Father, Lord, we gather in such a manner. We thank you, oh dear God, for the grace, oh dear God. There's people, oh dear God, who would have wished, oh dear God, and this time, oh dear God, but unfortunately, oh dear Father, they have not yet experienced it, oh dear Father. We thank you, oh dear God, as we proceed, oh dear God, with the program, oh dear Father. We thank you, oh dear God, for everyone else, oh dear God, who has honored even this invitation online, oh dear Father. You said in your word, oh dear God, in the book of Exodus, oh dear God, they cannot leave, oh dear God, without your presence, oh dear God. And we plead with you, oh dear God, that we have no capacity, oh dear God, to hold this function and conference, oh dear God, without your presence, oh dear God. We invite you in this place, oh dear Father. We thank you, oh dear God, also for the people, oh dear God, who are responsible for organizing this thing, oh dear God. We pray, oh dear God, that Ubenats in our midst, oh dear Father, as we continue, oh dear Father, may we also be conscious of your spirit in us, oh dear God, as we engage in ourselves, oh dear God, in a manner that is reflective of your character as well, oh dear Father. In the name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Siyabonga Nkosi, ngicela umshayele intando mlangeni sibonge nje umthandazo. Ngiyawathanda lama stage la kanjena ngoba uvela uthathe le mic kulo muntu. There is no need to adjust. I'm reminded there was one of the speakers in one conference that was speaking after President Mandela in the AU. So because President Mandela is tall, so now they had to adjust the podium. So the other head of state was very offended. He was shorter than President Mandela. But that's why I love this one, because we just pass on the mic without going to heights. Thank you, Nkosi, for the prayer. At this point in time, we are going to ask the Eswatini Competition Commission CEO, who is acting on behalf of the CEO, Mr. Muzi Dlamini, and I will ask Ms. Siboni Seluzulu, Simelane Masego to come and speak. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Director. Colleagues, good morning. I was hoping that my program director would establish the protocol so I could just ride on it. But uzamile umshengu. I would like to greet you all this morning. I recognize the chief executives here present. I recognize the board directors here present. I recognize our partner, the Ombudsman of Financial Services. I recognize civil society, the legal fraternity. I recognize our consumers who are joining us online and in the room. And I would like to greet you all on behalf of our CEO, Mr. Muzi Dlamini. Esteemed guests and valued stakeholders, the Eswatini Competition Commission wishes you a warm and heartfelt welcome as we come together to celebrate World Consumer Rights Day 2025. As we've already heard, this day is celebrated globally and has been since 1983. It holds a great significance for all of us who are committed to advocating for consumers and ensuring that they are protected in today's complex and rapidly evolving marketplace. I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to our esteemed partner, the Ombudsman of Financial Services, for their invaluable collaboration in making today's event a reality. Our successful partnership has been the driving force behind consumer protection initiatives that have benefited citizens of Eswatini and the broader economy. Together, we are building a future where consumers' rights are safeguarded and where the business environment is just and equitable for all. I'd also like to take this opportunity to express our deep appreciation to the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade for their continued support and the crucial policy direction that they provide to us as the Commission. Our work aligns closely with the government's Nkwe program of action, which focuses on poverty alleviation, creating wealth, stimulating economic growth, promoting job creation, and ensuring an inclusive growth for us all. By promoting fair competition, safeguarding consumer rights, and ensuring an ethical business environment, the Commission directly contributes to the achievement of the National Development Plan and the economic growth goals as set out in the Nkwe program. We are committed to ensuring that Eswatini's economy thrives in a competitive, sustainable, and inclusive manner, where you as consumers can make informed choices and businesses can innovate without fear or unfair trade practices. The theme for this year's World Consumer Rights Day is a just transition to sustainable livelihoods. And Mr. Linda Dlamini at the Competition Commission helped us to translate this phrase ngesiswati. Ngesiswati siphokophele ukuthi sitfole lushinjo lolukhonsako. And I hope we will all remember that as consumers. If there's one thing that you will take away today as a consumer, is that utawutfola lushinjo lolukhonsako, if you know your rights and you enforce your rights. The theme speaks to the urgent need to address the profound challenges that are posed by climate change. As we all know, the global environmental crisis is accelerating, and the need for a shift towards sustainable and healthy livelihoods has never been more critical. This transition is not only a moral imperative because we owe it to ourselves to guarantee the planet for our future, but it is also an economic necessity. As the Commission, we are fully committed to advocating for consumer protection while at the same time pushing for a sustainable and fair economic transition. Our role as the nation's competition regulator is to ensure that businesses operate transparently, fairly, and responsibly so that consumers are not left vulnerable to exploitation or market manipulation. And I hope today each one of us is a consumer advocate. I hope we're not leaving it to the Competition Commission or the Ombuds of Financial Services to advocate for consumer rights. It starts with us. As we gather today, we are reminded of the pressing need for both stronger consumer protection and a just transition towards a greener economy. At the Commission, our mission is not to regulate, but to empower consumers with the knowledge and tools to make sustainable choices, while at the same time encouraging innovation, fairness, that promotes fairness in the market. As we celebrate this significant day, I would invite each of us here today to reflect on the rights that every consumer should enjoy: the right to safety, the right to be informed, the right to choose, the right to be heard. And I hope that we all appreciate many of the other rights that are enshrined not only in the Constitution, but in the Human Rights Charter. Before I conclude, I would like to thank our distinguished speakers for the day, including Dr. Oliver Museka, our motivational speaker and business consultant, our friends from the Competition and Consumer Protection Commission in Zambia, as well as the panelists who will be sharing their valuable insights today. Your contributions are deeply appreciated, and we look forward to a day of impactful discussions that will help shape the future of consumer protection and fair competition in Eswatini. Finally, before I leave, I'm almost done. I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to all stakeholders present here today, including businesses, consumers, regulators, the Law Society, the legal fraternity, civil society, and the media. Your continued support is invaluable as we work towards achieving a just and sustainable livelihood for Yemaswati and the world at large. Thank you once again for being here. Let's work together to protect consumers and champion fair market practices and build a better tomorrow. Thank you.
Can do better than that. Please come, okay? Thank you so much, Siboni, for the wonderful remarks. And as he mentioned, see commissions the hamba ngakwe. Uyayibona le program la ungayibuka nje le speed lezihamba ngaso ubuke lesikhathi uyasho ukuthi zihamba ngankwe. We align with the Nkwe program of action. And labaneng baye banga understand ukuthi competition ingena apha emnothweni welive. Singena, we are a major contributor to national economic development in the sense that bosoma business noma ngabe uinvest nje lekhashana leSamerica uye uthi na ufuna kuya even kunetimfolo tuthika ukuthi khona lo kulomunye yatibuta ukuthi injani le playing field, is it level, what will happen nangabe sesinyathelana nalabanye in the business. And then that is where we come in as a commission. We make sure that we, empowered by the Competition Act of 2007, we enforce the law. We carry out investigations, things like price fixing, bid rigging, and all those things that are anti-competitive in nature. That is what we investigate. We also check prices of products. We have got what is called the monthly price tracker, where we track in the shops ukuthi kwendeka market ngoba kwendeka lo kwendeka market okutasitshela ukuthi ayingathi kukhona lokunuka lokufuna ukuthi sikucheck. So that is our role. It's very important in that sense. So that is how we contribute to the economy. And that by so doing we encourage innovation in the economy ngoba bosoma business nabaqutselene fairly kude mhlawumbe azengibe kusanje nangabe kuyi price fixing niyavumelana uthi ndayibuild it cement utaba 100 now uthoya another shop umkhaze 100 emalangeni bese kuyajengisa yini ngasibavumelele ngeprice kanti thina sithi ama prices kufuna ukuthi for instance, abe kube different because the cost of production is not the same. Lokufakako lapho. So ma consumers ke sakane choice ke manje. Ata uya ku stolo A akhanza ukuthi hayi ngahle price leni inyukile, bathi hayi azengiye ku stolo B akhanza yehlile. Nalama products lo muntu athi asale ngi-improve ngcono ngoba sikhompyutha nalo but othi nabafika la kimi bayikhanze ukuthi sengifake ama-spices le product. So now that is innovation in the market, and now that encourages employment manje for more people because businesses are being innovative. So that is how we come in. Are we understanding how we come in as a commission in terms of national economic development? The other important aspect is what we are about today, the consumer protection. I think that is what she mentioned, that we are all consumers, and as a commission, we protect consumers. We get some complaints about consumers in the market, some besiyopenya, some see resolve it thinking at them consumers. Ngibalo munye akade usinakathenga product fault utawuphuma bheke isikhona ke si commission. Before I call upon the Ms. Nondumiso Smelano Mnguni from the Ombudsman of Financial Services Eswatini, ngicela ukuthi ngikhulume something that is happening right now on the ground. We do it regularly. Some of our staff are not here right now. We are inspecting at the door. Mana ngeke ngisho ukuthi kuphi ndazi bayangiva ngi-live la. That is what we do periodically. Let's check nje singene sibuke ama-items ukubola kwawo, ukulimala kwawo, ama-consumers kwabekaphi. So we are using World Consumer Rights Day also to go and protect consumers by being on the ground in the market. Right now we are there. Khona nje jali bonela nalitelifake just called earlier on. Lisemgwaqweni on the ground, on the streets, in shops, checking ukuthi lokuthengiswa kwakuyilimade yini i-consume. Make Nondumiso, thank you so much. As you come up, ngicela simukele simshayele itandla uMnguni. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I feature in at a time of leisure to just flow in terms of observing protocol. So do allow me, particularly also in the spirit of Nkwe, so that we don't eat a lot of time, for one to say, theme is Kukundabo Kudawukosa. This theme resonates deeply with our collective responsibility as the two organizations, where we ensure not only that consumers are protected, but also ensuring that they are empowered. Consumer rights, colleagues, is sure a fundamental human right. It is a right for the consumer to be in a fair marketplace where individuals will, as already underscored by the program director, are able to have choices available to them. We come in the aspect of our overlooking dispute resolution in non-bank financial services sector. Allow me also to take the opportunity to highlight that, as Mr. Mabuza has already said, we have a wide-ranging collaboration between our two offices, particularly marked by coming together to ensure that we optimize the limited resources that we have in carrying out information dissemination, education into the country, the Kingdom of Eswatini, but more so emphasizing the rights of the person that consumes the goods that are on the shelves, as well as the services. That as the Office of the Ombudsman, we exist to resolve disputes in, while our colleagues our brother, our sister, the Competition Commission, is looking also or mainly at products. We also confirm how in times past, and even the time that is yet to come, including today, we have collaborated in numerous programs. He has said how we are also going to Tinkhundla after this was in the month of March last year, launched by the Minister of Commerce together with his counterpart in the Ministry of Tinkhundla. As we celebrate Consumer Rights Day today, it is essential for every one of us to reflect on how we can apply its principles in our daily lives, both in our individual personal lives as well as in our respective assignments, offices, and consumers can make informed choices through consumers can make informed choices through social media, are actually either holding workshops or indeed are out there to speak to the public and share information to sort of empower them with respect to what their rights are. As we are here, we want to encourage every one of us to ask themselves two important questions that will address certain steps that sure must be actionable. How do you enhance transparency? How do you foster knowledge to the consumer through education? Transparency. Consumers deserve clear information about, for instance, in our case, how the services that they purchase actually are. If it is an aspect of investment, they need and require to be advised appropriately before they even buy. As a person, okay, concerning consumer education, we already have said how in our partnership with not only the Competition Commission here, but other organizations, including the Central Bank, including the Eswatini Legal Aid, and others, including CIMAC, we are always, time and again, going out to yourselves through the modes that we've already spoken and try to disseminate information as touching our respective fields. As one draws to a close, we want to say, as we move forward from today's conference, let us commit ourselves not only to protecting consumer rights, but also to fostering an environment where those rights are going to lead towards more sustainability in the future. When people talk sustainability, it sounds like it is a huge thing, it is an expensive thing. It is possible for you to practice at a small scale, practices that foster sustainability, develop. We do so well aware about the concerns that our habits, as here we are consumers ourselves as well, actually put to threaten the environment. And yet the environment will in turn subject us to hazards. So may we, each and every one of us, take responsibility from the small scale that I've mentioned to ensure that as we transition, as we develop, as we innovate, we do so very much with a mind to ensure sustainability. One wishes to thank you for your attention, and we look forward to the discussion that we will have for this half day today. I thank you.
ngete satiphinza tandla bekune ukhuluma kahle make ngicela ungibhalele bonke laba pheshe labangashaya tandla ngathi thank you so much Mgune for the wonderful remarks and mhlawumbe umuntu aka highlight lokho ukuthi sibambisene kamnanzi ne-OFS Ombudsman of Financial Services Eswatini Competition Commission. Le partnership yethu nalamhlanje naku niyayibona la uyabona sing 50-50 na ubuka ngala kuna ombudsman una competition nangala kuna competition una ombudsman noma siya on the ground efielding nangikhipha imoto ombudsman uyayetha uma ngithenga litiya ombudsman uthenga ilunch sibambene kanjalo nje nala tindleko talomsebenzi sifake 50% ombudsman wafaka 50%. Isn't that nice? I think it's a lever we can learn from each other and ema resources ukhanza ukuthi sakaserveka ke timbasha uyahamba uya eshiselweni uyofundzisa ema consumers ngekulamuleka kwetimzaba tetimali hamba ngemuthi simukele labo labaselayinini sibatshela ukuthi abachubeke sicela ukuthi babukele incubeke and be with us satawuba mnanzi la kusataba ne panel discussion lapho khona taba nema experts lahlukene latawukhuluma tindzaba consumer protection. Stay tuned ningathubi nangabo unatsalitiya ulinatso phenza ubuye on the line so labo laba sejoina virtual siyabamukela but also the media is here as well. I know that there's Times, there's Observer, there's Eswatini TV, there's EPIS, there's Rubicon. Bengisinda ushaya tandla nalapho uyathi nje kuhlanganisa iminda yonke kanjena akusilula so ke siyathi ukuthi nakhona lapho akusasiyi ukuthi kureportwa ngakusasa kureportwa khona nyalo. So we are encouraging consumers, those that are online, to tune in social media platforms of the various media groups to follow the discussion. Thank you very much. And at this point in time, I'm told that the one was supposed to speak on behalf of ISERA, Energy, Eswatini Energy Regulatory Authority, the CEO's discussion is to shed light on the consumer. It's to share another quay. So I would strongly encourage that we keep it in that spirit.
Thank you so much, Shengu. Even though ambushile, but it's appreciated. From my own experience, I think the reality on the ground is based on an aspect of kungabinelwati mostly, and what you mostly encounter in the complaints that we get ombudsman, for example, is based on the reality of lokungabinale knowledge leyo. And for example, if maybe umuntu utane a complaint and they do not really understand their rights abo, and in most instances I try to advise lokuthi it's important that you also know kuthi wena umepi as a consumer, and that is one of the most important founding objectives of the MOU with the Commission as well, because I think we're also moving in that direction as well, Yaga Competition Commission, because on the ground umuntu ubabete even the aspect knowledge of what is expected from a service provider, and it always seems like the relationship is one-sided. In one of the outreach programs now, and I think Nozipo wakhuluma ngakuthi it seems like laban for when they get the service bese kuba ngathi bayabasita in a sense, yet they are paying for something. And what we try to encourage is ukuthi the relationship needs to be balanced, and umuntu ufuna abe nalelwati lale ama rights akhe, and most instances bantu bese bayathuka ukuthi nginemalungelo langaka in a sense, and it's something that it boggles most of us, because it needs to be communicated in a manner that everyone else gets a chance to appreciate why it's important for the consumer to know lama rights, because gulula for them to be exploited. I had an experience here the other time, saying something, but it kind of seemed like it was spoiled. And the nature lesiye sibe nayo is ukuthi sengidliwe, and that is not the attitude that we're trying to encourage. What we're trying to encourage in this time is ukuthi sonke sibe knowledgeable of lama rights less now and what to do in such an instance lapho khona sonayo le complaint, and singabe complacent with that reality of ukuthi singa-actiona kanjani. In our office we get a chance by when you start engaging the consumer, you realize ukuthi the only part that they understand is what is communicated to them, and loku laba communicator is only on the benefit of the person providing the service. And what we try to communicate kakhulu is ukuthi kufuna vele ati lo consumer ukuthi ne right to be heard, as it has been eloquently established to our speakers earlier. So in light of that, is what we try our best to promote is awareness more than anything. The higher complaints that we get, it reflects on the reality of Kutsi. The message is going out there, and even if maybe you may not be immediately affected by the service that we provide, but I'm pretty sure kono muntu longa benefita from that, and it's what we strive the most to say sikone go benefita even the other people that we cannot reach. Cela kugcina lapho Mshengu, I am a bit passionate about the service that we provide, so cela kuyivala lapho Mshengu. Thank you.
Imike iyandlulela kuba benjakala. Siyabonga kakhulu. Ucaza umshale tsandla umlangeni. Let's shade.
Sanibonani, ngicela ukunibingelela lonke, ngixolise njengokuthi ngifike a little bit late. Libito lami mina ngomandla ngwakanjakala Sibongo. Ngiyi-chairperson eSwatini Consumer Forum. Sesisebenzile ke empeleni neSwatini Competition Commission Ombudsman. Ngicabanga ukuthi lokhu ngaba mcoka nje lengingakusho. I hope ngingakhuluma both languages kude inkinga. Maybe lokhu ngaba mcoka lengingakusho nje ukuthi kuvela kwe-competition commission lakhaya eSwatini kusite kakhulu thina as ama-consumers, because ekuqaleni nje nasaqala ukuthi silwe nale nkinga lesihlangana nayo kwakude le shoulder lebesingasima kuyo, but after kuvele iEswatini Competition Commission sibese siba nayo ishoulder whereby if usihlangana netinkinga lesihlangana nato latitolo na everywhere nje, more especially ke nangalatimali ngoba latimali silimala kakhulu vele sahlala sikhana imali but baphinza simuke. Kusho ukuthi iEswatini Competition Commission in my view iwendile umsebenzi wayo, even though sisadzinga lokuthi uchubeke ngoba lengaphandle simaswati siyestikhanze ngokuthi kumgqoka lokho ukuthi kube nendlela yokuthi sifundziseke, sinikete nalolwati nalo ukuthi nasihlangana nalenkinga sireporta kuphi so that itosotheka. Sibabonile ke bosomabhizinisi labanengi beta latitolo batosithengisela substandard products, agcwele ke vele la kangwane ema substandard product, but i-competition commission isiniketile leligunya lokuthi itakulwa naletinto letifana naleto. So siyabonga kakhulu competition commission, kumbe lokunengi sisatoku discussa nje ngoba nami bengisazama nje kundlala ukuthi cha as consumers siyayibonga kakhulu imisebenzi lenjena, and I think dilanga leqala for sure umnyaka weqala ukuthi kukhona i-commemoration of World Consumer Rights Day. Maningi lamalungelo laphethelene nema-consumers, if ngikhumbula kahle alakubo 8, but ayafihleka empeleni kutawudzingakala lokuthi afike onke kulama-consumer ngoba kukhona laladzingakala mbamba vele. Sahlala sikhuluma nge-expiry ama-products, but kukhona letinye tingcinamba lesitifihlile lengemuva lokufanele ukuthi tilunge. Siyabonga kakhulu Competition Commission. Thank you.
Siyabonga kakhulu. Sicela shaye kakhulu tandla sicinise ngoba kunemagama lengiwathandzela washoko babenjakala ukuthi eSwatini Competition Commission ligalelo layo liyevakala, liyabonakala. Sonke cishe siyavuma usho njalo ukuthi cha solo sifikile nje kuyabonakala ngoba vele ema consumers esikhathini esiningi bokhanza ukuthi abathi batawubalekela kuphi and abathi mbamba. Uma ngabe nje uthengana licingo esitolo bathi litawuthatha 12 months lingakanati inkinga naselinato in 1 month's time. Bakangathi lo muntu utawuphuma bhekephi. Nyalo soyathi ukuthi no utazivakashela bese siyabhukusana. Ngeke sivumelane nawe sonke isikhathi kodwa utawusitakala. Ngoba kungenteka bathi itelo licingo alifake emandeni ukhansi olifakile so udakithi siyaphenya angeke sivumelane nawe as a consumer. So lokho ngikho umcoka ube nale information banana nawe as a consumer wathi ukuthi nangithenga noma ngenta sivumelwano ngempahla kusho ukuthini yini malungelo am yini ama obligations am noma lokufuna ngikwene nami what are my responsibilities because asikabuki sibuke emarket yonke esiphenya fairly media. Hey, what a rare opportunity. You can ask Joseph, you don't want to ask a question. We have got consumer experts here, consumer protection experts from Ombudsman of Financial Services, Eswatini in the Competition Commission, consumer forums, we've got regulators, LAPA, SPPRA, unema, hey, lamuhla nje awu ngeke ukuhlala ungabuthi umbuto na uyi-journalist Mbabane nje Joseph ngeke nali lithuba ngiyakunika ngoba ayimvela kancane uhambisa imic until this is an opportunity for my media colleagues to ask ngoba siyaqoqa or just to make a comment about today's topic. Over to you, Mr. Zulu.
Thanks, Sheng. My name is Joseph Zulu from Times of Eswatini. I will still have more questions later, but for now, maybe for Mr. Chagala from the Consumer Forum. Just a question. You mentioned Ngotikunema products la substandard in the country. How extensive is that? And maybe what kind of products are we looking at when you say substandard products? Is it things that are edible or substandard in terms of products in general? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zulu. Stop in the Sibele Consumer Forum. Nasuka la ku Consumer Forum. Eswati Central Bank of Eswatini una ombudsman wakhona nabo ngoba nabo basebenza dona leti indzaba leti. Khona babe khona la bakusho nje bangafa baphefumula ba asaphendvula umbuto babe njaka.
Siyabonga kakhulu Times. If khulumisa ema substandard products inqumbi yawo lesihlane nawo ngema electrical products. So ukhanda ngokuthi le product ngalendlela leyakhiwe ngayo ngidawubekisa nje ukhanda ukuthi iNokia but ukhanda ukuthi la seyinoka sekususwe nje lo ayi sokuba difficult wena na ukuthenga ukubona ukuthi phela kunemehluko letinto leti. So most of the leti electrical and electronics vele siba nayo inkinga latitolo kokuthi qamuka ingabi ngile standard lesifanele kokuthi ngakulandzelwa sona because we do have ama standards la kangwane and siyesibukisane na so standards authority ukuthi I standard sale product lesi lena ingiyo itsini mbamba. So most of the tinto unfortunately tiqhamuka from the Far East inqumbi yato letiba ngema substandard products and asathi ukuthi tingena kanjani ke ema border and so forth but nje nasikhulumisa ema substandard products ikakhulu ngila kuma electric and electronic products bese kuba khona ke nala kudleni lokho ukuthi size sithi ngema substandard njena because if into ingajiki ku standard leside ipakishe nje behind closed doors yathengiswa we regard that as a substandard because ayika checkwa ngale ma standards akhona even though ingaba nase checkwa ibe alright but na ingakhombi la kuyo ukuthi kulamanangwayo ukuthi icheckiwe yalandzela which standard in most cases in South Africa uyothola kubhalwe SABS kulama products awo. So nathi ngala kangwane sigadze lokho ukuthi lama products nathi lesikhicitela wona kube khona imark leba khona ukukhombisa ukuthi kuya conform to the to the national and international standards. So vele issue ema standards I think imcoka kakhulu ukuthi thina ema consumer. Ngiyabonga kakhulu.
Siyabonga bakanjalo. Central Bank lapha. Mhlawumbe saya e-Central Bank uma ngabe unenkinga i-consumer ekhaya ingashayela thina ka Competition Commission noma isisebenzele WhatsApp nangabe ihlangabetana netinkinga emarket nayithenga 7606 2962 7606 2962 ka Ombudsman inombolo yabo ithi 7698 7570 76987570 ngoba kumcoka lokuthi nabahlangana izinkinga abavele ba WhatsApp ngaleso sikhathi bangamele lelinye langa lekufika eMbabane yofika nini abasende lana thina sivele siphenye masinyane. Siyabonga.
Thank you, Sanbonani. Within the Central Bank, Google Office la Ombudsman, we don't just give Mbabane a license and then so we provide a platform ga Ombudsman ukuthi unangabe une complaint against a certain bank, you can come to us ulojele your complaint. It can be any complaint, but ke le complaint you are targeting unsophisticated customers, that is lama customer angakhona icasha abameli. So nokufuneka le threshold ke kube noma angisele complaint yakho ingabe imali lenkulu lendlula kubo 2 million. But what we do lokwenda nje kusendela iletter then sithatha siyimikisele libhange lakho selitshela salispendule within 7 days, then usually some say we resolve within that period le complaint yakho, but our turnaround time yethu ngo 6 weeks. But kumahara ku complaint with the office of the Ombudsman in Central Bank. So basically that's what we do. Any bank related complaint in general ungayiletha office in Lalukuzana. Maybe we comment about today's commemoration of World Consumer Rights Day. We are pleased to say we've been part of this commemoration over the years. We must invite our Ombudsman of Financial Services in the Consumer Protection Commission. So lebe singacela nje noma into lesinga ukusata kuma customer ethu ukuthi abas approach if they've got these complaints. Sometimes when ukhaza usuvuta sasi complaint le ku Ombudsman lo wrong ayilethe ngakesi, we don't throw that complaint away. See the memorandum of understanding with the other Ombudsman. So sinendlela yokuthatha le complaint yakho seyimikise to the right Ombudsman, then bese siya communicate nawe ukuthi sort out for a response ngale. So basically, law, particularly, we have to emphasize within our sister Ombudsman and other regulators is that because a lot of people right now have complaints, but about we've got these platforms of resolving this complaint. So the intensify awareness campaigns, with the consumer Ombudsman and Competition Commission. We've had them road shows, so I think that's the way to go. Commenter. Thank you.
Ngiyabonga yathi nje ngithanza lele obososhaya tanda shaye vele nami ngivuka. The partnership imqoka na udukile wadukela ka Ombudsman for Financial Services, still okay as a consumer. Ngoba ngendeka ungayibona ukuthi itawubheka ngakuphi akunandzaba batagrefer. Noma ungadukudukele ngale Central Bank batagrefer. Nakithi ka competition lenye sidathina sibuka sithi lena mhlawumbe ya Ombudsman of Financial Services stagrefer kecha lokumcoka ukuthi wena as a consumer just come forward. Ngibone na FSRA la kube khona la kusho ungamshare ngaphandle ngoba sisebenzisana asisebenze sothwana sengomkhambatha njengoba asho nje siyaphuma siyethi inkundleni siphuma kanye kanye. And we also have a radio program on EPIS2 English channel every Thursday at 11 strictly on consumer issues. Ngijabulile ngathi ngibone mabandla khona hostwa nguye na iswasho ka FSR ifuna kube khona la kusho nje amabandla bhembe nguye lo hosta lo hlelo ka EPIS2
office la ka FSRA nelhovisi lemlamuli lekungu Ombudsman of Financial Services kusho ukuthi le office le Ombudsman of Financial Services lona lasungulwa ngiyo le FSRA Act lokuthi li resolve ema complaints complaints lachamuka kuphi, complaints lachamuka kuleti nkampani leti lawulwa noma leti regulator nguye FSRA. Lokusho ukuthi those are the complaints that they take and resolve. Mhlambe ngetenganza anyway uma sifundzisa sive in collaboration with bonabo OFS nabo bo Competition Commission at some point. Sibana loke nathi lihlelo sing FSRA eRedweni, that is VOC. We normally have it on Thursdays ngabo 4, that is evening drive. Lapho sifundzisa khona ngetihloko letahlukahlukene including consumer rights. Mhlambe ke lokho it's a subject for another day. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pembe. Ngibhoke ungacana ka SPPRA ngoba ngine interest ukuthi ukhuluma ngama substandard products lokuthi would afika njani, what's the role ngoba in terms of procurement mkholo lokuthi ingasilekelela njani iSPPRA in that regard.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Program Director. Ngingu Vusumuntu Ndvodza libito lami ngokamathebula sibonga ekhaya kithi kusengudeni kaMamba. Kwanyalo ngisasebenza office la CEO ka ESPRA, Eswatini Public Procurement Regulatory Agency. A lot has been said, but ngidakhulumela ehlangothini lwa ka ESPRA. From my experience, having worked in the public sector for about 20 years now, at a senior executive position, we always go and angicanje ukuthi mawufunza esikolweni kuthiwe yini lokubangela ukuthi i-economy yethu ingadevelop kahle kangwane. There is always one answer lengasali, working in silos. I was listing la ezisichubeka sikhuluma ngilista ngicale nga ESPRA, ngalista Competition Commission, ngalista SWASA, ngalista Ombudsman, FSRA, na anti-corruption, ne Department of Fraud and Poison. In my thinking, in actual fact, mangisacala ngisebenza lapha office ka ESPRA ngicabanga ukuthi by now kutabe kune forum where these organizations meet to discuss ama issues, because uyakhuluma futhi lapha, uyakhuluma nalokhulumele Central Bank, ukhulumile nalabanye, but mawubuka tonke letinvo lestibuka kawudinye, it's just that indlovu lenkulu lomnyubamba umboko lomnyubamba indlebe, but sonke zama tina lendlovu. Now ubute umbuto wakho specifically ngenza ba yema substandard products. Yesterday we had an international conference that was online where we were talking about Nzabayabo Africa Continental Free Trade Area and how we can participate as mass suppliers or encourage mass suppliers to compete internationally now or in the continent trade area. Now, if you are going to do that thing, you are going to need to provide them products last standard, because there are consumers out there that you are going to be competing with other people laba supply for the standard. And the conversation ke ithi kufuna ukuthi ngabe in our conversations nasikhuluma nakakhuluma nje Competition Commission kulokula khuluma ngakho akufune ukuthi umloka ESPRA ati ukuthi ukhuluma ngani Competition Commission. Nangabe kuqhamuka i-intention to award ye tender, intention to award is where the tender is complete and then lo procuring entity asengithi railway noma SPTC noma Ministry of Health, so ukhipele intention ukuthi ngi-intenda ku award na ngumfuna ngile tender. Thina lesikwenda kuzvele sithathe siyifake ku website, so nawa laba intenda kuba award, and then 2 days down the line noma 1 day before kuphele lo 10 days, shothi after 10 days akufuna basayine contract, abesu uyangishayela ngiyabekisa bese uyangishayela competition asimathebula ngicela ungitfolele ama documents ana itender nayo lo ayifaka lapha, sibona lama contract figures labhalwe lapha ngathi kunemkhonyovu. Now mina ngathatha ngafaka, I never saw anything wrong with the figures, you know, kan kube bengibonile ngadi it was going to be a trigger first thing kufika uthi competition awubuke nako ngazuthi nakulo kwakhuluma ngako ngiyakubona la all those issues ukhanza ukuthi ke lokunye ukhanza ukuthi competition akakubona njengoba sibuka nje labanye babhizi ngemsebenzi welive nani nibhizi ngemsebenzi elive wengcelo 10 days iqhubeke i-tender i-awardwe ngendlela lobuka ukuthi uyabona vela ukuthi kwaba ne-price fixing noma kuphume i-tender ngisini ngiyacetha kuphume i-tender ukhanze ukuthi le tender mayiphuma ngidawubekisa kunalama contract lamakhulu singawabala bo AG Thomas Roots Inyathi ngiyabekisa all of a sudden on that particular tender Roots is non-responsive Inyathi is non-responsive Duvan is non-responsive njanje but here I am mina ngathi ukuthi nangilona ba lo responsive ufuna kube nguye uthola tender 10 million out gone. You know, all those things can kube siyasebenzisana nalokuthi ke kulesinye isikhathi uyakuthatha le timvo so uyatibona ke uyatisola ngiyabekisa futhi angisho ukuthi kuyendeka so uyake anti corruption nayindzaba lapha ngicela ungibukise nayindzaba nayo babathi ngiyayibuka angiyiboni kahle uyifaka indzaba 24 December kuze uyihambela 26 December kulomnyaka olandelayo so lokuthi feedback kusikwendeka into ngale timvo lethu now egcinga konke nawo usuyabuka ke lokuthi akusimini lo hluphako la sengigcina ke siyathokoza sibaka esipha ukuthi kulomnyaka lophelile sisayine MOU na competition commission bekuphinze kunema arrangements ke ukuthi sitabo featureisha kulolu hlelo lwase radioweni and by the way I think I was driving emgcibelo emini I don't know whether it was a repeat or what and then I was able to I had forgotten my Bluetooth player so ngenhlanhla ngase ngole radioweni ngathola ke kudlala le program I think like usho kubeka namabandla and I think bekanalinda and that was a very good program but I challenge yami lenginayo with that program with that wealth of information is that ingabe niyasitshela inlesive ukuthi kune program lenje ukuthi siboyilalela ngidawubekisa nangabe uthanza ibhola ngangafevi Highland nangabe uthanza ibhola nkasele ngawina you would want to wake up in the morning ulalele le sports show because uyati ukuthi kutabana lama conversations that you want to hear now nangabe kunale program lo sitshela ngayo namuhla ngibani lonyelo yadiwe masingake nje sithi la ka channel Yemaswati ababhalela ku YouTube eceleni nathi mina ngiyayadi ukuthi idlala ngasikhathi banini na futhi nayo ikhuluma ngeyakhe ya VOC tongele timvo. Can we try and promote these programs so that angengikhona sonke isikhathi ukuthi ngiattend meeting but ngakhona kule program ngisebenza ka ESPRA lenga enricha ukuthi ngende kangcono umsebenzi wami and assist competition lokula kwendawo sengigcina futhi kwegcina ngci kulombuto wakho bobutile ngenza bayima substandard products phinze futhi ngophendvule ngalenye indlela we prepared a document as ESPRA lesibita ngekuthi market price reference catalog whereby we collected 17,000 of items common use items lasentshentiswa nguhulumende by hulumende ke ngikhuluma ngaye wonke umuntu losebenzisa imali yemthelo wami ukuthi ende umsebenzi wakhe bafaka ekhasi labo bantu labo onke ama ministries bafaka ekhathi ema parastatals ema state owned entities nabo masipala nema government agencies as long as asebenzisa nje imali ye subvention lo mvu loyo is supposed to be accountable to ESPRA atochaza ukuthi le mali yahulumende imali yesive ayahulumende imali yesive isebenza njani nikhumbule lokho imali yesive now when we then took these 17,000 common use items we went throughout the whole country saya ku retailer saya ku manufacturer saya ku wholesaler saya ku tenderpreneur laba dayise boutique kuyofola ukuthi mangabe ngidawubekisa udayisa typehack now i-entrepreneur ingimalini typehack espa okay Shoprite Pick and Pay ingimalini emetro second metro emetro wholesaler ingimalini and then nangabe khona lo iprinter ko ayidayise ingimalini and then we took those prices sathatha lama range for Hoho you'll say Hoho is going to be cheaper because it's closer to everything namanzini but nasuyeshiselwe naselibonjeni so uyaphuma sekufuna lo retailer afake ekhathi affectations zaba yabo transport nan into the price which used to mean those prices in the far-flung areas are going to be more expensive than the Mbabane Oshuk Manzini corridor. Now we got those prices and then our expectation was that procuring entities, Mbabane, Lagos Ministry, parastatals, Maspal, are then going to be saying, Nangtengalok, 17,000 items. Mangtengalok, Angboyeng to Bugala, Ule price range, Gutsukona Kona in. No begisa since Ngakula. We had the first Espra, Babe Walter Bennett, it was the first Espra that one. But he's always been in notebook to choir lebe at the time ngiyacabanga ingitwe malangeni nangisakhula nangastand 88 bese ivele kahulumende bita 50 malangeni nyalo lokusikhuluma you can find say in 23 malangeni bengithengela abafana kuvula isikole ungakhanza uhulumende uyithanga abo 250 malangeni itu choir inye. But the problem is that you then prepare this catalog uyilethe afika athi ma suppliers site inkinga thine ngekudayisela whosoever lothengako asebenzisa imali ye tax ngale price lo isho. But the problem is that you have to factor in indzaba yokuthi utongibhadala after 10 months. Nangabe ngiyocupha ngimdayisela ngithatha iloan ebhange lene interest. Nangabe ngidayisa angibhadala after 3 months 6 months already sekune interest lapho, which might even happen ukuthi by time ngiyitfola le mali nyaloke sengive kusinabo masipala sebayakoleta basabhadala ngesikhathi. Nangiyitfola le mali already seyidliwe interest yonke. Egcine konke sekuthi nje ngivuke ngiye emsebentini ngibhadala irent. There is no profit I'm getting from dealing with the public procuring entities. Cabanga ukuthi ndaphinze ngitfolela elinye lithuba sikhume ngijabulile kuva ukuthi kune consumers forum la. Mane so uthethe ama questions lamaningi so lomniketa ngayinye kanti ngabe usimele nje sabhala iquestionnaire ngoba kwami lokunye bengifuna ukukubuta ngilokuthi nyalo nje sidila nganandzaba tabo market price reference catalog sidila ngetindzaba tema tender that are overpriced sidila ngendzaba tema tender lethi abantu afoje ama documents le forum ihlangana kuphi nini siye kufanana nje na ilenye ya le ababemdluli naye solo ngatalwa ngathi ukuthi solo waba ngichairman not in a bad way ngumumvu lefuna ngabe thina sing express sebenzisana naye sathi lokuthi kepa yini igama lale organization Yemaswati Consumers Association sathi lokuthi sihlangana kuphi anini lama meetings because we for the lot that we can contribute to the discussion on the Consumer Association. Ngicabanga ukuthi ngicela ngithatheke kahle kule ngikusho ngikhuluma ngale tinfo letikhona ngicabanga ukuthi where I'm sitting now and standing as a consumer first, it's something that I'm bound to ask about. But ke kunengi lele ngifise ukukhuluma unfortunately ngidaba ne meeting bangibitile neba kinga 12 ngidawuzazo ukuthi ngibesolo ngithi ngibambekile so that I can participate more kunengi lese ngafisa ukuthi ngiphindze ngichubeke ngokukhuluma inkinga ngeke bese ngibamba lo mbhobha ngisawedlulisa.
Hey, my hey, this is such no. It's refreshing. I mean, like as you said, Mkolo, I think there's a need for that forum. Because working in silos doesn't work. Regularly forum. We discuss these issues. But also insightful. Thank you so much. So environmental authority ready with this the presentation. So now ngdaw tata eswasa mabandla sangdam shwambaganya na chair editors forum before I give environmental authority because the editors forum now is important stakeholder and when it comes to consumer protection issues but so perfume nje sisaqhumngangala.
Siyabonga che mina libito lami ngimayibonga kunene ngisuka eSwatini Standards Authority eSwasa sengitivile tinkulumo kuma speakers lamaningi but nje lengingakusho kulendlu le ukuthi tonke letinkinga lentikhulumako isolution inye kusondzela kuswasa because
yeah
lesikubonile kwenteka thina we develop ama standards both ema goods and services ema regulators njengoba kugcwele ama-regulators la, angeke ukhona ku-regulator ngcono ungakasonzeli kithi sikuside ukuthi uregulate ngcono. How do you have to factor in the issue of standards in your regulations? Sito khona kusitana. SPPRA uyakhala ngema-substandard goods langenako, Consumer Forum uyakhala, ESERA uyakhala. But the solution ikhona la vena. Nginayi collaboration la khuluma ngayo babe Espra lapha. Sasa kube ma-regulators amsebenzisa letinkinga ngatincane. Ngoba nalo into lesendako we are dealing with ema-problems individual lasikhona khona. Ema-problems lotfola kutsi ema-solutions akhona even. Thina nje sinayo i-MOU with Competition Commission. La sebenzisana khona nabo. Nakunema issues la khona even labikiwe kibo in terms of ma substandard goods. Bayawaletha kithi lamanye siyawa tester in accredited labs. Sibuyise ma results sisho ukuthi this product ayikakhiwa ngalendlela okufanele yakhiwe ngayo. Ngoba yonke product ine standard sayo from bottled water namanje leswanathako. But unfortunately lolobuke emandi utathola ukuthi akakasonzeli kithi lamandi wawaforce ukuthi wonke umuntu lo produce emandi even kufune amithe nawo ama requirements. Ngilawubekisa nje mavela abo makhelwane ane ma products lanawo le compulsory wena nangabe umanufacturer ukuthi comply to a certain standard. Before you sell that product or you export that product, you need to comply to a certain standard. Lokuthi sikhule nje singaka sathi ukuthi SABS approved into lo ithola kuma products. Kusho ukuthi South Africa in terms of uptake ema standards livele lisetulu. So kusho ukuthini lokho? South Africa shothi in terms of sustainable development isembili kunathi thina semuva because lo ngikhuluma nje kude ngisho nayo inye institution leke yafika yathi uyati una standard lesa sihlala phasi asidevelopa nawe sicela sale siba i-compulsory standard sicela ukuthuma wena swasa uyosita kuthi na ingene egedeni le product le iyasmitha in the standard. So the main problem that we have as a country ngilama silos lesisebenta ngawo, we don't have a forum la khona sitawusebenzisana sonke sibambe imihlangano and have ama programs lesitaw implementa ngawo. Sengcina ke ngeva different institutions akhuluma ngokuthi anema programs lawa ranako laphathene ama consumers. But ngicabanga ukuthi we've got one thing that's lacking in the country. I-consumerism nje iphasi kangaka. There's one thing that's lacking. We need a Consumer Protection Act. Ibe i-Act of Parliament. Because currently, I think Consumer Protection Act, the last time ngcina bekuyibill. Sitawa protecta njani ama consumers. Side luhlaka lomthetho lolitawa protector. Ngicabanga ukuthi ngiyindzaba lenye lokufuna siyigijimise. Itawusita futhi indaba ye Consumer Protection Act ukuthi iforce laba producerako uthi dino laba producerako tingabi substandard, because if it's a good Consumer Protection Act it will have the issue of standards in it. So that will ensure ukuthi Yemaswati ma products lawa tfolako they are safe, they are environmentally friendly, and they ensure i-health Yemaswati onke. Ngiyabonga.
Siyabonga sicase mshayele sandla swasa. I think lokho ngisasta kukhuluma kuma panel discussion ngoba nyalo ngicela ku Mabandla Mike ngimnika 30 seconds bese senginika chair at task forum, and then at exactly 20 past we will give the representative for the CEO of Environmental Authority for his 5 minutes remarks, so that at 25 past we take our tea break, which would be late by 5 minutes already. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, MC, and good morning to everyone, and especially my colleagues from the media industry. We're honored to be part of this discussion and also celebrating World Consumer Rights Day worldwide. I think we first acknowledge that it was in 1962, I think, when the former president of the United States of America, that's J.F. Kennedy, brought that issue of consumers within the US Congress, where he highlighted the importance of consumer rights. And I think he was the first leader to do so. So we should appreciate that the element of consumers is such a significant one, as it was launched by the former US president. But as you've said, Program Director, I'll be brief. I want to thank all those who find time to listen to our program, and I'm sure we'll look into how we can improve it as well and market the program so that more people can know about the program. But I'm happy that more and more people are tuning in, and as we know, we are the only national radio station in the kingdom. So it is obvious that more and more people get to listen to our radio station. We do have our Siswati channel, but for now, the program is more on our English channel. Well, what I'd like to emphasize on, in as far as today is concerned, as we celebrate Consumer Rights Day, it's all about also trying to bring to the public out there, the citizens, on the difference between a consumer and a customer. There's also a difference between those two things, a consumer and a customer, and which I believe, as a radio station as well, as far as the program is concerned, we want to highlight that, where we know that most people do not differentiate. For instance, that a consumer is the one who is the end user of any goods or service, while the customer is the one who's purchasing the goods. So that is also important that we bring to the attention of the public. When you become a consumer and when do you become a customer in as far as goods is concerned. So I think we'll deliberate more about that. And I'm happy to see even Mr. Dlamini Melusi Zox, who is a person who wants to bring what is known as Made in Eswatini. We know that in our neighbor South Africa, there's what is called Proudly South African. So Made in Eswatini, Mr. Dlamini, I think he will talk about the National Consumer Affair that will be held right here in the capital city on the 25th of next month. I'm sure he'll expand more on that event, but more than anything else is try and bring the picture to the public out there on a consumer and customer and their rights as well, and how then can we see at the end of it all the rights of either a customer or consumer are being adhered to. But for now, I'll leave it there for more discussion later. Thank you.
Thank you. Customer consumer. Specifically, no, it was so technical. Thank you, Mr. Pembe. You can even come here. Yeah, you can. The chair of the editors forum will speak from here. Or you want to speak? Come and speak from here. Yeah, thank you so much. And then we will have remarks by environmental authority before we take break.
Sanbonani. Well, I'll say it again. Sanbonani. I know kumnanzi la ngekhathi. Ku warm. So kungendeka bese drifter away, and me, I'm an active person, so I would like talking to people who are going to really participate in the conversation. Thank you, Baba Mabuza. May I also congratulate you on this very beautiful position. Ngicazimshaya lentandla. Angathi noma it's called timing that you are new and then you are already hosting this important discussion. Siyambongela commission for tapping into your expertise and recognizing your potential to help the conversations that we should have. Beknene batengna 38 seconds. My name is Mbongeni Mbingo. I come from the media space as chairman of the Editors Forum. As he has said, ngokuthi kunalomnye naye lesolo akhula wamkhanza nje ang chairman we consumer. Nami solo ngingichairman mkholo. And I appreciate the privilege that I have to speak on behalf of my colleagues on such important issues. And I will say just 2 points. The first one is that it's well and very nice to come together on a single day to discuss issues that we should be discussing every other day. And that is where I come from, stakeholder, that Sinega media, sifuna lama conversations lawa to be sabayang sabotage. Sifuna lama issues every day are discussed in our various platforms. And all of you here are ensuring that that happens. So as we sit and have these conversations, remember that there's a person long ago le broadcast who will need this information next week and is not aware. And if you don't engage the media, that person will also not be able to hang on to or catch up or get informed on many levels. So it is important to get Begnene to deal with the media. And I always shumaela this verse. In media, iba very important because it operates from an informed position. And the information and being informed comes from the players or actors' information, which is you who are here. Namhlanje ngiyambona regulator, ombudsman waka financial services. We have been publishing stories for the past 3 years that require that ombudsman stands up, shows up, actively participates. How shame umngoni. It's not her space. Hi, it's not the right time. Hi, mbanjwe ukuthi ma regulations athi. Hi, no. We must find a way that we involve every one of you into a conversation that now touches on the rights of the public. So that's where I come from. My last point is to urge ngiyabekisa manje simelana ngoba sesiyacabanga phela sokwento njani. But kahle ngoba ngibhaqile la angubona. Babesho ngongcolisela. My last point is going to be ukuthi media has played a very significant role in flagging the matters. And all the time when we flag the issues, it is then left on the media to follow the conversations and look for accurate information. And therefore, we require Nana Natsi to be informed at a very regular or continuous level. So I'm going to be pushing or advocating for organizations like Fanana, Competition Commission, and all of you who are here, ESPRA, for instance, to come out and find the media useful and educate us on the policies and the programs that you are setting up so that we can also assist you to say and spread your messages. I think that is very important to us. but angigcine ke ngikunibongela ngoba I know there's very different organizations that are here. Kokuthi most of you have recognized the need to inform or to keep the public informed, and therefore you are hiring or recruiting people in the communication space, but they are not to be token offices. They are to engage and live day by day through informing and communicating to the public, and that's where we come in as the media. So if your communications is not being present, visible in media, it means that msheshe nje appraise bese sofuna lo munye baningi seyiproducile ile mkhokho ngibeknene. Siyabonga.
Tosimoka umsebenzi kani. Cela somshale tandla chair editors forum. Bengizo utawuthi nangabe nifuna i-communications person uqala la kumabuza lacele cha siyabonga. Thina sasicashiwe ke-commission and we love what we do. Thanks Mr. Mbingo for the wonderful remarks. Media is our important stakeholder in whatever we do. Ngihamba nayo ke mina ngihlale nje ngijuma naye ngisho ukuthi ngisuke kuphi nakuphi nyalongla phinze futhi lo ngihamba nayo imedia angishiyi. And nathi si-commission just ishiyi media as an institution. Thank you so much. Mr. Mapang, your remarks on behalf of Environmental Authority. 3 minutes before we take break. Thank you.
Good morning everyone. I've been given an opportunity to make remarks, and so Shilo Mabuza to Mkodis Mapanga from Eswatini Environment Authority, standing in for Mr. Dladla. So I've been given a task to make remarks regarding managing the effects of climate change, having practical solutions to waste management, plastic solution, and affordable renewable energy. Ladies and gentlemen, by Ilangagit, a lot of us think by Lena, Ipegane, Nema regulators, legislators. It's not true. We all are involved, even as impacting economies, health, and livelihoods. And when you look at the theme for today, talking to a just transition, you would think a just transition is something which regulators and maybe policymakers are only responsible for. But when you're talking to just transition, you also, as a consumer, play a pivotal role in actually shaping sustainability through responsible choices for us to really change. Sabotage. But in terms of understanding climate change, we have to understand the issues of the rising global temperatures. We need to understand the issues of extreme weather events, biodiversity loss, impact on food security, water resources, and human health. And now, you would think, who's responsible for it? Who will be responsible to ensure that we do not have impact on our food security? We don't have impact on water resources. We, as the consumer, our own carbon footprint. Mr. Mabuza siyabonga lo thina ibambelana lelo mhlangano. Nonke lana emandi enu are in a glass bottle, which is reusable. Actually, I'm putting a task with Competitions Commission ukuthi nakaphuma la abohamba acele the carbon footprint results, with how much for this meeting. This is how Hilton Hotel, for your meeting, this is how much you have consumed. This is how much electricity you've consumed. Notepads, this is how much you have consumed, and you get your carbon footprint. Now, you are the Consumer Competitions Commission. You can make that decision for every meeting you want. To say, we don't want plastic bottles in our table. Competitions Commissions, you are responsible for that as the consumer. Okay. And the waste hierarchy can be sembili is avoidance. If you can avoid it, better. You know, ngikuthanda nabo labathi Stingy Men Association. Angisho ukuthi ngilapho.
But think about it. If we were all to be stingy to say, "Ngilithengelani kodwa nal plastic nal?" Why am I buying disposable water bottle? Why can't I just go and get something which I can refill? Siyababona ama office baphatha ama jugs langaka. Imagine umuntu etene 24 yama plastic water bonke konke malanga. Etene 6 disposable plastic bottles which is tawu natha langa lonke. So we do encourage such, you know. So good waste hierarchy, I can say a lot about it. But let's look at the most preferable waste minimization method. And as the consumer, you are responsible for that. You know, I thought about this thing in the past to say, Lababama iPhone users, how did we get to be type B or type C charge, my charging ports? The European Union yati says to you, when I wait, when I charge. Every time umuntu uthenga i-charge uthenga iqingo velo nale charge uyamthengisela. Yabona, you are keeping making consumers buy. Sesiyakushintshisa ke nyalo sithi make a type C charging port. Bamenda type C. Because the consumer was the European guys in the EU. But no, we want type C charging ports and Babua logos at the market. So we are saying it's avoidance, issues of avoidance. Imagine on a Samsung, on an iPhone, when you put it to a charger, consumption. If one consumption, if one at you have reduced the resource consumption to them. You also have a responsibility of supporting eco-friendly businesses and sustainable policies. Meaning, we call a patasako. Ase supporteni labo magara peti magete laba semsa letiqepho lethi suka lekumathapha bakha letikhwama. Buy those handicraft items because that is patasako, and that's the responsible consumer we want to see. So, ladies and gentlemen, there's a call to action. A consumer, we need to have a consumer-driven, sustainable future. So, as consumers, I must make every consumer aware that small daily choices lead to a collective impact. In science, kuna nakula bakubita ngekuthi angathi lothi ngakubeka kahle yini. But kuna na issue ukuthi ngakubekisa lula in terms of us if sonke nje la singaphuma sothi khulula lapha ekoneni lapha. Sithi khulula ngathi khulula munye ngeke kunuka. Ngathi khulule wesibili maybe aneke kunuka. But that's party by the time ifika ku5. Erenkini ungabona dlula ngale. Uyabona ngoba seniyadla bathi khulula khona because a lot of people are doing it. So if we were to do the opposite of the negative and do something positive, sonke besothenga sinkwa siphume sisiphethe ngesandla ungasifaka eplastikini. That's a good consumer choice. You know, if sonke nje singathi yathi ngifuna kuba neliqingo linye, then ngibe na 5 kodinqingo che wami ngalana sofihla lelinye. But you singabi nale mandate or le lenkhaphunkaphu yokufuna kuphela ukuthenga and dispose, buy and dispose. We need to advocate for greener policies and business practices. And above all, ladies and gentlemen, we need to educate others on responsible consumption and also on issues of waste management and issues of climate change. With that, thank you very much for your attention.
Mr. Mapan. Thank you so much. We appreciate the remarks and we appreciate the partnership we have with the Environmental Authority because we are part of an ecosystem as a commission. We are not working in silos, and we encourage we must go green in line with the government policy. kuzama ukunciphisa the carbon footprint usho njalo mosibaba mapha. Thank you so much. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, sacela ukuthi ngiqolise kancane ngesikhathi, but we are still on time. Sicela ukuthi litiya silreduce nje sibuye nga 11:05. It should be a 25 minutes tea break so that we start a panel discussion. I know it's a Friday, but what I request is that no one must move. I will have a security team by the door and the reception. No one is going out because there's a very exciting panel discussion bringing on board experts. If you look at your program, we'll have someone from consumer, Mr. Piri from Competition and Consumer Protection Commission of Zambia. We'll have Dr. Oliver is already in the house, Mseka. We'll have the Law Society representative. And then we will also, which is Mr. Hasso Makakula. And then we'll have the chair, Mr. Wonderboy Kumalo from SASCO. And Mr. Aldamini, Melus Aldamini from Epicura People. I think they talked about him earlier on and the work that they're doing around made in Eswatini products. And also the Commission on Human Rights and Public Administration, Pakamashili, who is the Executive Secretary. So there will be a very interesting panel discussion. They will be here and all of you will participate, and will also, we continue to stream live, and we encourage our virtual audience as well to stay tuned as we take a tea break, and don't go away. Even those that are watching us live from channel Yemaswati, they must also stay tuned. We continue with the important program. We are celebrating World Consumer Rights Day. Thank you very much. Let's meet at 5:00. The tea is outside, and yeah, help yourself until we meet at 11:05. Thank you. welcome back from tea. Andy, please call those that are outside. Let's give them 30 seconds to come back and get settled. Okay.
Oh, yes. Yes.
bathi kuvela ligama lakhe kuphela sisavele akabhadele kwavile no ngicela avule isound yakhe
Yes, Mr. Phil, can you open your sound?
Yes, ngiyabona na. Kusho ukuthi avele. Usenga unmute la.
Unmute, okay.
Yes, solo ngazange audio yakhe ayikho. Okay. Yeah.
Mr. Puri. Hello, Mr. Puri, can you hear us? You are muted. Maybe as they are still setting up, thank you very much and welcome back. At this point in time, I'm going to invite our panel to come forward. The first is Mr. Piri, Protection Commission of Zambia, and he is going to shed some light on consumer protection and enforcement in the Republic of Zambia and look at opportunities and challenges. And then the second one is Dr. Olimba Museka from the Institute of Research, Development and Management, IRDM, who is going to look at profiling the 2035 consumer ensuring institutional readiness to meet consumer expectations. Dr. Oliver Mseka, please come forward as we clap hands for him, please. Just an exciting one where we are engaging in a panel discussion that will be informative and insightful.
Siyasinamukele Yemaswati lamahle solo sikhona lana ku Consumer Rights Day khona la ehotela lase Hilton ngesikhatsanyalo ngidavele ngisithethe Thambo ngibuyisele kuye MC lo sekavele awuqalile ke umsebenzi nyalo kuta yona ke i-panel discussion.
Is the law adequate to address consumer protection issues across all sectors? That's what we will be focusing on. Mr. Makagola, please come forward, please, as we clap hands for him. And then we are also going to be joined by the chairman of the Eswatini Association of Savings and Credit Cooperatives, ISASCO, Mr. Wanda Boy Kumar. Mr. Kumar, please come forward and welcome to the panel. We are also expecting, unfortunately, but he stepped out. There was an emergency, but he will be joining us shortly. Mr. Melusi Zox Lamini, who is from a peculiar people, an agency that works in the area of made in Eswatini consumer product. So he's going to shed some light. We can clap hands for him in absentia. Pagamashili. Oh no, sorry. Yes, the Deputy Commissioner from the Commission on Human Rights and Public Administration. So that's been a shy done. It takes time, it takes courage, it takes a lot of energy, resources to leave everything to come to be with us here. We appreciate our panelists for the day, and we will also get an opportunity for question and answer session once they present. Mr. Piri. Is Mr. Piri now able to join us? I think they are muted. Mr. Piri, are you there? All right, technology. Maybe let's start with Mr. Puri. Hello, Mr. Puri, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but I think you can't hear me.
No, we can hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. I think there's an echo. Okay. All right, shoot. Can you please come now? I've introduced you to the house. You are going to speak now.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Continue. Shoot.
Okay, maybe sorry, I didn't tell you at the beginning. Maybe I can have what I'm supposed to contribute to.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Puri. Here now we are starting the panel discussion. Other panelists are here. And I've already introduced you as the Director for Consumer Protection at the Competition and Consumer Protection of Zambia. And from you specifically, we are going to ask that you touch on consumer rights protection and enforcement in the Republic of Zambia, opportunities and challenges.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I hope I got you clearly and you're able to hear me. Well, in terms of Zambia, the challenges that we have, particularly in terms of consumer protection, relating to this year's theme for World Consumer Rights Day, which is a just
recording in progress.
A just transition to sustainable lifestyle. First of all, we know what sustainable lifestyle, or more, in my view, sustainable development is. It's about meeting today's needs without really compromising the needs of the future. As you may be aware, the biggest issue we are facing right now in Zambia is energy. And we had a drought in last year's rainy season, which affected our ability as a country to generate electricity. Most of our electricity, we depend on hydro. So with this shortfall in rain, our consumers have had to rely on alternative sources of energy, which is mostly we are using solar and charcoal or firewood. So we've seen an increased use of firewood, which of course translates into cutting down of forest. And of course, for us, that's a challenge for our future generations. But then related also to the current consumers is that from our view, we are seeing alternative sources of energy, particularly implements like equipment for solar energy. The government has done its part by removing import taxes on the said equipment, but it still remains quite expensive, which is a challenge for our current consumers and makes it a bit difficult for them to switch to solar, which is a form of more sustainable energy. For now, that's my contribution on the start of Zambia. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Puri. Can you please clap hands again for Mr. Puri, please? Consumer, ensuring institutional readiness to meet consumer expectations. Consumer, ensuring institutional readiness to meet consumer expectations.
Sorry about that.
Now my mic seems to be working.
Thank you so much, Mr. Secretary, for the opportunity. I'll start by uploading the platform. The effort being made by the Ombudsman. It's a very interesting thing that we want to discuss and talk about, because we are looking at the ideal and looking at the transformation of the sector and how sophisticated consumers have become. We're in an era where we are dealing with informed people. People understand what they want and how they want it. So it is only going to take organizations that are going to invest in systems that connect data and an understanding of what really consumers want. Because without understanding exactly the consumer, you cannot provide a service or a product that is going to be appreciated by the consumer. So you need to understand the first, second, what exactly they want. So in order for you to understand what consumers want, what we need to do is. Thank you. In order for you to understand what consumers want, what you need to do is you need to collect data around that. So we are moving past an era of being reactive to coming to an era of being proactive on these issues. By being proactive, we're saying you need to understand and analyze the data about your consumers or the consumers of your products to an extent that you create a persona of the consumer, even in the absence, for you to have a clear understanding of who you are dealing and who you want to satisfy. And then you design experiences in the absence of the consumers. What we need to understand is consumers themselves, they generate the income for organizations or businesses. And the businesses, they've got an obligation of creating and designing these experiences. And when you speak of designing and creating experiences, it's not a once-off things because expectations are changing on a daily basis. So as a result of that, the first encounter in terms of experience, it sets the tone for all the subsequent encounters that you're going to have with the consumers. So you need to continuously gather data, analyze the data, understand the persona, understand the changes in the environment, understand the changes in the needs and the expectations of the consumers. Because we are speaking of a point of interaction where the consumer comes in with expectations, and the expectations, they need to meet the experience. That's when we come up with a state of satisfaction to say one is satisfied. And not only that, if you look at the products, the services that are being offered across industry, they are almost the same. But what then determines your position or your market share as an organization is how do you take the experience that you create for the consumers, understanding your own touch points. Where is your point of interaction with the consumer or the customer, and understanding their pain points, because as we interact with customers, there are issues that they've got questions on to say, this, I am doing business with these people, but this, I won't participate. So we need to understand the pain points from the consumer's perspective. When we understand the pain points, then we address those issues. When we've addressed those now, we are speaking to an aspect of what we call customer centricity, where we are saying in decisions that we are making, before we roll them out, there has to be that one voice that says, where is the consumer, where is the customer in all this that we are doing? Because we want to come up with something that is going to have an impact and touch on the feelings of the customer, the emotions of the customer. So that's where we are seeing ourselves. And with the introduction of AI, I think we are under pressure, because AI has made things very easy, and also it's bringing pressure on institutions, because we now need to invest on customer relationship management systems that incorporate AI in them. Why? Because they make it easy. They easily make it easy for us to analyze the data about our customers and
clearly give us exactly what the customers or the consumers want at the end of the day. So what is only going to make us survive, or what is going to be the ideal in 2035 is us coming up with a customer-centric approach, and also having the technologies that support the aspect of customer centricity, and also constantly understanding our customers and understanding the environment and the changing expectations from the environment. So basically that is what is going to take us there, which is going to see us, sorry to say this, which is going to see erosion of some professions like marketing, professions like public relations. We are going to see them fading away, because we are now dealing with a situation where people believe in testimonies rather than what you guys from PR have prepared, rather than what the marketing guys have prepared. Because we know in marketing, you have sat down and looked at the gaps and how you can attract and engage the customers. But when an era where people no longer want to hear that, they want to hear testimonies from people. What do people say about your services? What do people say about your products? And when you speak of that now, we also need to address the aspect of retention of customers. We have got a challenge that institutions, they are busy on daily basis looking for new customers, but they don't take time to look at the existing customers to say, how do we retain them, or how do we keep them? Research has it to say most of our customers, they are leaving us not because of a competitor, but they are leaving us because of our attitude. We are always concerned about getting new people, but we are not concerned about getting the ones that we already have. If you look at what we call the customer lifetime value, it says, for example, if you are dealing with a customer that is giving you 100 Malangeni every month, at the end of the year, the norm is you should get 1,200 from the customer. But that is when you are not doing anything pertaining to creating experiences for the customer. But when you do something towards that, you are going to see an exponential growth in terms of the customer base, because once one receives the best experience, they don't shut mouth. They go and talk about it. So it's what people are looking for, to hear, to say what is happening out there. So people are engaging or doing business with us, not because we've gone to market. They are doing so because they've heard someone speaking about us. That's why we've seen a lot of influencer marketing trying to control the narrative out there. So that's the era that we're in, the era of customer experience. We're going to see customer experience taking over from marketing, where we're going to also look at working at the issues of retention in terms of customers, retention also in terms of employees. Because as consumers, we wouldn't want a situation where I walk into an institution and every time I walk in, I'm finding different people. Every time I'm walking in, I'm finding different people. To me, that speaks volumes to me as a consumer. So when you speak of retention, we look at retention of the customer, but also look at the retention of the employees. So the narrative should be, we should have the customer at the heart or at the center of the business, but our people come first. So, because at the moment what happens is we have got institutions that have adopted the customer centricity approach, but they don't take care of their own people, who are the derivers of experience, or who are the people that design experience. So in order for us to get to the ideal, these are some of the things that we need to address. Let me end there for now. I can talk until the cows come home.
No, don't end. We're having a discussion. Can you please clap hands for Dr. Mseka? Dr. Mseka, maybe where then is the balance between traditional and with the emergence of AI systems? For instance, you will find that environmental authority speaking of plastic-free society, but you'll find that consumers or customers on the ground, they want the plastic. Where do we strike the balance between what is emerging and what our consumers or our customers are used to? And then I think that the other one is maybe don't you think that in terms of retaining, I think I like the one on retaining not just of customers but also of employees. I think which is a good one. I think also as a consumer or as a customer, if I walk to a shop, you develop relationships with whomsoever is there, from the reception to anyone, then if next time you come back, you are under the assumption that, look, I'm gonna find this same person, and you don't find them. What are you saying to employers in relation to that? And also, maybe you said PR and marketing will be fading away. Maybe, don't you think that it's an opportunity to transition? Maybe these professions will transitioning to more customer experience centered instead of the traditional ways of doing PR or marketing.
Thank you so much. I think the last one is a sensitive one to you. Very. Right. So what I'm trying to say is, in the past, what we've seen customer service becoming that module within the marketing framework, where people from PR will tell you, and we've got people that are from marketing also saying the same thing. But now we are coming to a period where we're going to see the aspect of customer experience coming more than the marketing and that. Of course, when you speak of experiences, it comes a point where we also speak about the brand experience. But brand experience and customer experience have to meet at some point. This is where we then have genealogical advocates of products, where you see people using a product like Vaseline. Ask them why exactly are you using Vaseline. They don't have an explanation. But bakule is a you get it, because the brand has been tried and tested by whoever within your family, has been passed on. So we're going to see more of advocates that is coming in, because remember, by the way, when we convert a first-time customer into a repeat customer, they become a loyal customer, and then eventually they become our advocate. When they become our advocate, now they are pushing our brand, even in our absence. That's why you see, even on social media, you have got that one person who, when someone says something, he is busy defending or even explaining to other people about your products. That person has enjoyed an experience and is also sharing, becoming an advocate for that particular brand. I didn't get the first question.
I think the first one was with regards to AI, the balance.
Yes. When we speak of customer experience, the difference between, I spoke about being proactive and being reactive. The customer service era was more of reactive. That's why we had somewhere in the business with a corner where we had people that were under the customer service department. But in the customer experience era now, we are saying it's no longer a departmental issue, but it's now an organizational culture where everyone in the organization, they need to understand their role within the in terms of provision of experience. Where we are speaking of even internal customer experience, where we're saying internal within the organization, let's create experiences for each other, and then the same thing with external. So in all this that we are doing now in customer experience, it has to touch on the emotions, because a human being is emotions. If we're going to take a quick survey now and say, point at yourself, you realize that most people will point to the chest, pointing closer to the heart. Very few people are going to point to the head. So a human being is emotional. So customer experience only comes into to brush and touch on the emotions of the consumer, right? And then technology is only an enabler. It's not necessarily replacing us, but it's coming as an enabler. Like I'm saying in AI. AI, if I'm going to be doing business with you, right, and I'm developing a relationship with you, AI tools are going to assist me to understand you better. And when I've understood you better, then I can design my products in such a way that when you come in, you enjoy the experience. You enjoy the experience. You also enjoy the products, because they've been designed according to you. And I've used technology as an enabler to do that.
Quite insightful. Please, thank you. Give a hand to Dr. Mseka. Once again, where does the law come in, Mr. Makakula? Someone said earlier on that the country needs a Consumer Protection Law Act. Is the law sufficient in the country in terms of addressing consumer issues?
Thank you, Mr. Mabuza, and the wonderful audience that is here this morning. Just as a prelude, Mr. Mabuza, I think one notes probably the legislative inroads in the country over the years, insofar as consumer protection is concerned. I think those in the House will appreciate that in as far as 1969, you had your Hire Purchase Act. You've seen we go down. You have your Money Laundering, your Fair Trading Act, and over the years, you've seen the country enacting quite a lot of statutes to try and cater for the consumer. But specifically, the question that you ask, and I think the speaker from SWASA mentioned something concerning the Consumer Protection Act. But we know that I think recently we've had the enactment of the Consumer Credit Act. And I think one of the things that many people don't truly appreciate is that the coming of that act sought to clearly bring a relief to the consumer insofar as what it encapsulates in what it brings. I think the only drawback has been its implementation insofar as the regulations therein that gives it proper effect. But insofar as the country stands now, there is a Consumer Credit Act that speaks to the protection of consumers. And I think recently it has come under the eye. I think there's a case where a Swatini Bank was put to task, I think, against Pupula Trust. And because one of the things that this act provides is to say if a consumer probably is not able probably to pay a loan or a debt, so the usual procedure back then was that quickly you just issue letter of demand, summons, you attach and all that. But what this act now said, it says, no, you can't do that. You know, first engage the consumer, refer the consumer to a debt counselor, work out how he can properly pay the debt before you can attach or do anything. But you find that I think you are the stakeholders now that should be propagating and for these kind of legislation to quickly come to the fore, because it no longer now looks only at the person who gives the loan, but also to the consumer as well, to say, you know, someone comes in, applies for a loan, the business was doing good. The business was doing good, and for some reason there was a downturn. But instead of just crippling the person once and for all, there could be a resolve than to kill the business entirely. And secondly, with this legislation, you see a burden upon these institutions to say, even your agreements, align them with the statute. I think we are all culprits here. We are all working, and we go to the banks, we take loans, you go to Bradlow's, you buy, and you don't read the minute details of these agreements, and which most of them are contrary to what this act now provides. And our ignorance then makes us to be victims when now we find ourselves probably in the courts concerning these things. But you signed this agreement. And remember that our law of contract works within the freedom to contract one, and that whatever you buy or you purchase as it is. So, and that is where the understanding then must come in to say, if now we have a Consumer Credit Act like that, which seeks to say, even your prime rate, you have agreement says 13 plus prime, whatever, but the statutory, when you go to court, it's 9%. So you cannot recover anything beyond that, even if I've signed a 15%, 20%, but only to find that our consumers are not aware of all these things. So I think from a legislative point of view, Mr. Mabuza, the country has tried to make inroads. It's just the appetite, I think, for the stakeholders to explore these inroads and make the consumers aware of what now is at play, because most of them, our law says ignorant of the law is not an excuse. I think lastly, you have these our brothers from India who are selling us to buy cars and all that. And the act, the Consumer Credit Act says it defines what a credit lender is. So in terms of how they couch their agreements, which are contrary to law, they act as credit lenders, which they are not. And few people don't understand that they cannot do that because they are not credit lenders. So they cannot have agreements like that because they are one selling second-hand cars that are way out of time to be within such agreements. So I think for me there is a need to at least create more awareness of what the acts that are there. As I'm saying, there are so many acts. We now have the commercial court as a result of these legislative inroads that the country has made. We have now have your communications commissions. All of those are inroads that has been made legislatively, so that at least consumers are not shortchanged insofar as the services that are provided to them are concerned. But it's the appetite to explore these legislative inroads, because you know that if you are dealing with giants like your banks and all of those guys, they will be so slow to have those implemented, because it hits hard on them, because it's now an advantage to the consumer to say, at least I can have a reprieve. I cannot just be attached as and when, if I'm aware of what the legislation now provides.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Mr. Makakola. I think we are touching a very important point. I think the one on awareness is very important. I think, having said that, the legislation is to an extent sufficient. I think two questions. One is that you are talking about alignment with the statutes in terms of whenever you. Let's be practical now. I think you go to a bank, you are applying for a loan, someone comes there quickly and say, sign here. There are big documents like this. Sign here, man. There's no opportunity to read, I think. At what the law say with regards to that? I mean, at the point of service delivery, or at the point of assistance to the consumer,
Yes.
to the customer rather. They may not have the luxury to ask questions or to say, please give me 30 minutes, give me a space in a room somewhere within the bank to read this, what I'm signing. So the person will just come and say, sign here, open papers. In fact, they will come with some sticky notes as to where to sign, with marked. That's the first one. The second one is the Consumer Credit Act. Maybe we just want to elaborate a bit there with regards to engaging a consumer before the whole process of getting sheriffs and repossessing. I mean, look, maybe the banks or any other institution will say, at that point in time, we are losing profits. We are losing lots of money. And that will lead to us retrenching or suffering some prejudice, because we are now busy chasing someone. I mean, that's the most immediate one that someone will say. Yeah. What would be your response to that?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mabuza. I think on the first one, Mr. Mabuza, it's unfortunate that every time we go to the banks, you're always under pressure, and you just want to sign and get the money and leave. But as I said, the principle is always, that's how they then, when you litigate, they use freedom to contract, because you personally submitted yourself and under the understanding, guys, that you read everything that was there, yet you had no sufficient time to read. And I think we've had cases where people then come and say, it was just a 2-minute thing. I was told to sign here, It becomes a problem. But I want to say, I think it is now high time that we advise our consumer, take your time. You don't lose anything to say, can I be given an opportunity to go and consult on this contract? I have that right, because remember, we are not being forced to sign whatever we are signing. It's the free will to sign, so that at least tomorrow, whenever there's contestation, you can safely say that, look, I understood the terms and condition of what I was binding myself on, and that's it. So I think consumers must be aware that they have the luxury to go and have time to look at the contract, and if there are clauses that they are not satisfied with, they can go to your offices, depending where the issue arises from, to say, look, I'm being made to sign this, and I'm not sure if it does align with the law. As I said to you, that some of the contracts that are still there now, vis-a-vis what the legislative inroads now say. They are not in tandem, and probably so they would not want to give you to go and consult, because they know that with the advent of the Consumer Credit Act, some of the clauses that are there, they have to change. And if you guys are probably not on the forefront to know and understand this, you'd find that I think the consumer will be always at the disadvantage. And then probably secondly on
but on this
yeah.
one, don't you think then that law should go further to press upon the one giving the service to say, look, maybe you can't sign before you give that person 24 hours or whatever? Because you understand what I mean? So that it's on both ends.
So that could only come in if there's an opportunity for the legal practitioners in court to challenge those things to the point that then a pronouncement either by the courts concerning that particular issue. But the other challenge is probably the appetite sometimes to have these issues jurisprudentially extrapolated. And I think that is what then also enriches the laws that we have when even the consumers and the stakeholders they can probably sort of go to court, not just because of any debt or what, but on a principle to say, but legally is this in the right place. And then on the second one, Mr. Mabuza, that you asked, I think the Consumer Credit Act, I think the most contentious one is I think it's the section 100 that provides for the issue of the debt cancelling and all of that. And you are right that from the issues of the bank, for them is they want to recover their money, because one of the things that also the Act exposes is the issue of reckless lending. To say, there's some times where a consumer is given loads of money, but on the normal scheme of things, he was not supposed to be given that money. And when he's not able to pay, obviously they want to recover. They are 3 million, and only to find that the problem was with them when they gave the money. And it also speaks on that. And the debt cancelling, obviously, it says to me, look, I cannot attach this person. I need to find ways, minimal ways. So in a way, it's protecting the consumer. At the same time, it is probably a drawback on the banks, because they want to recover their money, they want their interest. So there's that balance which I believe the legislation was looking at, that to say, I think sometimes we lose credible businesses, not because they should close down, but because of some of these hidden clauses in these contracts that are not explicit, and probably the alternative ways of recovering money without crippling the business, because you're looking at the chain that is then affected, not just a single man owning the business, but the line, the employees, the families, and everything. So I think in a way this Consumer Credit Act was probably crafted in a way just to try and accommodate that sort of line.
And the regulations have just been issued out, I think, the consumer and the service provider, if I may say. The good thing about it is that it encourages the responsible lending. And then the responsible lending says you have to put some parameters as a service provider to ensure that whenever somebody is given a loan, there's some due diligence that has been done with regards to the affordability to pay back the loan accordingly. So that then links with what we do in terms of savings and credit cooperatives. One of the things is that we encourage our members to do savings, to make sure that they save regularly, monthly or so, depends. And to an extent that I think some of our circles and some people, they don't find any problem also more than just saving, but they can also put their gratuities there and invest with that. And by saving, it means this individual is gaining that, if I may use the word, of credit score. Yes, by the savings, they are increasing the savings score or the ability for this one to be lended the loan. So the challenge is when now, because
with us as SACCOs, you find that there's a board. Okay, we are both shareholders, owners of the business, and at the same time, we are the consumers. And sometimes when we get there at the table, we're speaking with the board whom we elected into office, and we are looking for something bigger than our states of loanability. And then we negotiate, and then we tend to maybe close one eye in some areas. That's where the problem arises now. Which those are some of the things that we do find, but now, all in all, whenever that has happened, then there has to be some way of making sure that the money for the members is collected back to in any way possible. But of course, the savings that are there, they can help as surety for any delinquencies that may arise in the process. Also, maybe in terms of, but more than that, there is education that is conducted, awareness and education, which also includes the legal framework that we operate within. We do educate our members about that. And we also try to look into now the products that are there in terms of loan, and try to make them as affordable as possible for people to be able to access their loans. Yeah, and maybe I'll end here for now.
Okay, where do you educate them? The awareness raising, I think the consumer that is joining virtual will want to know. Maybe to have a radio programs. I know Mtera that talk about this,
because when we are electing people, we can at least. Because when we are electing people, we can elect my friend, all those things. So we as a SASCO, then after that we then empower the educators with the appropriate skills, and probably also the material and the information that they will have to share with the members. So that's the line of capacity from us, and also the the committee, and then it goes to further to the people on the ground. Of course, we also work with other stakeholders like government, the Ministry of Commerce, the cooperative department. We also work with those entities sometimes, yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Consumer rights are human rights. Where do you come in as a commission with regards to consumer protection issues or consumer rights? And what do you do? What campaigns or programs do you embark upon to ensure that consumer rights as human rights are protected?
Thank you so much, Program Director. Ngiyanivusela nonke. We are privileged and honored to be part of this gathering. And indeed, consumer rights are human rights based on the fact that they protect the dignity. We all know that consumers are the ones that consume our goods and services, so they need protection. And as a commission, we work with anything that is called human. So it's important. We had, I came in late, but I heard what the Consumer Protection Association said. I think it's Mr. Njagala, that some of the goods and the services that they consume are not good products. So it's important for us as a commission that has got an oversight mandate to ensure that, I think Haiso has mentioned, to ensure that we protect them, and we do that using various ways. Before I get to that, I'd like to introduce what the commission is all about, because some of you may or may not know what the commission is. The commission is the Commission on Human Rights, Public Administration, Integrity. Were established by the Constitution in terms of Section 164, and as an integrity commission in terms of Section 239 of the Constitution. We are still working on an enabling legislation So basically now our mandate is derived straight from the Constitution. And the Constitution gives us 5 key mandates to work on. It's the human rights, public administration. I think it could be an ombudsman oversight mandate, or in some countries it is called a public protector. And we also work with issues pertaining to public sector corruption. We're working with issues that are talking to injustice. And then the last one is the issue of integrity. So at the Africa space, we have just started working with human rights and business, because previously we were not so much into issues of looking specifically at the collaboration between human rights and business, yet it is important to do so. And the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement has actually opened our eyes to say there is no way we cannot talk about people's issues when we're talking, or we're not going to talk about business, because we're all here, all dressed up, we're looking good because we have chang, we've got money. And money comes from business, and sometimes we use business for good and for bad things. And institutions like ourselves have to ensure that there is fair play in whatever we do. So consumer rights now as human rights, how do we explain them? They are not separate from the fundamental human rights that we have in Chapter 3 of our Constitution. We have a host of these rights, but there is no mention of consumer rights specifically. But we are going to be then talking about what exactly do we talk about when we talk about consumer rights. So we use what is called a consumer rights-based approach in emphasizing the principles of fundamental human rights. We also say human rights and responsibilities, because you cannot talk about human rights and forget about responsibilities. I think I heard it. I don't know whether I heard it from. I think I heard it from SEA that it's important. Even at the Commission, we emphasize that one cannot happen without the other. So, and then when we talk about these principles, we are talking about universality. When we are talking about universality, what are we talking about? We are saying consumer rights apply to all individuals without discrimination. We are talking about indivisibility, to say you cannot talk about one and leave out the other. They are all interlinked. Then we are talking about equality and non-discrimination. I think that one is clear, that we must all be treated fairly, and there must be no exploitation. Then we're talking about participation and accountability. I think it has come out from this forum as well, that it is important. Whatever we are doing, we're doing it for the benefit and the sake of the people that are paying our salaries. That is our taxpayers, ne? Yeah, because we wouldn't, especially those that are in the public sector, they should remember all the time, because whatever you are doing, we are just servants. We are serving the nation. And what we see sometimes is that people start swinging in chairs, and they forget that their main customer is the taxpayer. What's the role of the Commission now? We undertake an oversight mandate and accountability to ensure that consumer complaints mechanism function effectively and duty bearers are held accountable. We're also looking at public awareness and education. Yes, whilst we are very thin on the ground, we are big on forging partnerships, and I'm sure that that's underway between ourselves and the Commission in order to say we can't do it alone. There's just so much to do and so little time. And I think the CEO of SPRA also said, well, we've been working in silos for too long, and I think that should end. And we know that that is the key challenge that we're facing in us fulfilling our mandates. And I think that is what causes a lot of disservice to our customers and as consumers of the services that we deliver within our respective places of employment. We also do policy advocacy. I think I've picked up a point. You mentioned a very critical point, that saying that how can we hold the financial institutions, those service providers, accountable? And I think it is important. We need to influence that kind of policy to make sure that there is maximum protection. Because why are you giving me 13%, 15%, or even 30% now, when the law says, or the courts, I will not say it's the law, the courts are saying 9%. The best you can get from any court is 9%. So it is incumbent upon all of us to make sure that we stand up and we talk about these things. I don't mean we should phakamise matvolo, but you know, we can talk about these issues. And I just say thank you so much for having this conversation, because it is long overdue, and it is important that we start talking about these issues, and collectively it can be possible. And I think it is also placing a duty on us, especially as a commission, as an oversight body, to make sure that we are also a convener, so that we can have a round table and talk about these issues. I think Rome was never built in one day. We can make sure that everything happens, and happens for the good for all of us. So we also intervene when there are violations. We are sorry. The way we don't. We use courts. We use the public, the TPP's office, to make sure that we report any violations. We don't have powers to enforce, but we can refer. And also, thank you so much. And also, we use alternative dispute resolution to make sure that the parties that are in dispute are brought together, because our intention is not to send everyone to jail, but ensure that everybody does the good. Does good things, sorry. The section 239 talks about integrity. And when you think about integrity, it talks about nembeza, wethu, sonke. Kusi, you know, it's important, kusi, sometimes let us listen to that inner voice and do the right thing, and not, you know, wait for laws, kusi, asiguide. God gave us everything. Kusi, sikone, kusi, sicabange, sicabangele nalomnye umuntu. We must also be very empathetic in our dealings as public officials. So basically, the commission ensures that there is functionality, there is responsiveness, there is alignment with human rights standards. I also heard someone from SWASA. And I think that is very profound. Everything starts with us, you know, trying to have a bare minimum on what we want to be as a person or as an organization. And if you don't have those values, if you don't have integrity, then there is little or nothing. There is no progress. We cannot develop as a country. Then the constitutional provision of consumer rights. We have section 20 that talks about equality before the law. Fortunately, we have our main partner here, which is legal aid. We are hopeful that once the act is is operational, people that are vulnerable will have assistance, because right now it is very, very difficult to have access to justice. Our friends in the law society, sometimes it's very, very difficult, and I'm hoping that they will also offer pro bono services which will actually help other people to be able to access justice, because sometimes at the commission you can find that there has been a cross violation, but really at the end of the day, I said we refer matters to DPP, which means they will eventually have to go to court, but this person does not have the means of getting to court. So we're hopeful that that will be practical and ensure that there is justice for all. Then there's the protection of inhuman and degrading treatment, which is Section 18 of the Constitution, which shields consumers from exploitative and harmful business practices. Then there is Section 33 that talks about administrative justice, which guarantees fair access to a redress in the various institutions. I think most institutions were actually telling us what they do. So it's important, and I was particularly happy to hear what Central Bank has to offer, because at the end of the day, really, it's about assisting those that cannot access the service. Because when we talk about unfairness, we're talking about the powerful over the less powerful. Then the rights of women and children. We also know that women are vulnerable and children are extra vulnerable. So sometimes it can be very, very dire. So it's important that we, just to understand that we all have our own limitations as human beings, but that those members of society that are even more affected about some of these violations. So as I conclude, I'd like to talk about the intersection between consumer rights and human rights. Is the right to health, that is safe food, medicine, products, and fundamental physical and mental well-being. We're talking about the rights to information. I think that has been mentioned. But again, you find that sometimes as consumers we don't read, we don't know, and I think it brings a duty again for us to make sure that we go out there. It's not about Mbabane, it's about us being there in the grassroots and making sure that people are made aware of their rights and consumer rights in particular, because we are about consumer rights today. Then they must have a right to adequate standard of living, have access to essential goods like food, water, housing, energy at fair prices. But unfortunately, you find, I was listening to some of the deliberations during the recent electricity hike. People were more angry than presenting issues that need to be dealt that we have in this house. So we must agree that we have it. I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Magan Hlengetwa. We are also having Mr. Melus Dlamini from a Peculiar People. Please ngoze join. Sisamshayela tandla nje. We appreciate ngoze ukuthi uba imbekile ngemisebenzi for wathi waphinza wabuya. We appreciate it, and I know that we actually earlier on it was mentioned that kunemsebenzi lenwendako lomkhulu and siyawubona. And now, just briefly, in less than 3 minutes, civil society-led consumer protection initiatives, strategies to educate and empower consumers in Eswatini. What are we doing? What should be done? And
okay, thank you. Sanbonan Mengnene, Libitong Melusi Dlamini, and I represent Peculiar People, which is an agency that focuses on creatively bridging the gap between consumers and local products. So our focus is on products made in Eswatini, and we have curated a series of events that is meant to connect and bring consumers closer to the products, for them to interact directly with the products, to interact directly with the entrepreneurs. One event that I would like to highlight is going to be happening in the Mbabane city. We're going to be closing off a street, Dr. Shai Road, the busiest street in Mbabane, and put together products and entrepreneurs that are basically behind local products. It could be food, beverages, clothing, you name it. But also the big guys are coming on board, the guys that are doing sugar, the guys that are doing bread, the guys that are doing eggs, and as well as the smaller guys in beauty and cosmetics and in fashion, in accessories, in crafts. We will have both the informal and formal traders. We've basically created this platform for the consumers to be able to interact with local products in real time in one space. It's pretty hard to get local products from different sectors in the same place. Some of them, obviously, you can find them at the Pick and Pays. Some of them, you can only find them in events, at the bushfires, at the farmers markets. But we've just created a space where on this specific day, we will have all these local products and also available at promotional prices. So we are just trying to encourage the interaction of the consumer as well with the actual products. And we will definitely, we have partnered with the Commission, you know, to assist us with getting consumer feedback in terms of the pricing, in terms of, we've also partnered with SWASA to assist in terms of the quality standards post the event. And yes, we would like to invite everyone and especially consumers just to come and interact, to come and purchase, because we will be creating data based on feedback that we'll get from consumers that has to do with the different prices, accessibility of the different products, and so forth. And tomorrow we will also be hosting a forum for consumers, specifically for the product owners, specifically for the entrepreneurs that produce products for local and international markets. Mshengu will be one of our panelists. We have we'll have someone from SWASA as well, just to have a conversation on consumer preferences, on why consumers choose certain important products ahead of our local products. There's obviously varying factors from pricing to accessibility to consistency to quality, but we want that to amplify the voice of the consumer. We want that to come directly from the consumer. Thank you very much.
That's very interesting. I've got one question. So what triggers this focus on locally produced products, like in terms of the work that you're doing? And I'm going to come to Dr. Mseka, maybe from a research perspective. Like, to what extent does it enhance the economy, the focus on locally produced products? Maybe also in relation to maybe what other countries have done before. I think someone was talking about proudly South African earlier on. How much should we focus on that, and what are the benefits? Maybe after Umlangen. No, you start Umlangen, but what triggered it?
I think for us, it has always been an issue of choosing local, buying local, but we needed to at some point create a certain standard so that it's not just a blanket approach, and the consumers are directly involved in that making a decision to choose a product ahead of another one. I believe that is a right of a consumer, but we have had to then create these platforms so that the consumers can interact with the products and give us feedback in real time. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Dr.
Thank you so much. There's always a need to protect your own. We are looking at soaring unemployment in the country, and we're in an era where we are pushing for entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship, so that also it's taken up by tertiary institutions, where we should have innovation hubs within tertiary institutions, where we produce people that are going to be productive, produce employers, not employees. So there's a need for a country to also promote local products and also protect them from the international market. It's not only about promoting, but also protecting them from the international market. That encourages more people to get into business. If you look at it, it's easier to buy a sofa in Hlazatshe and bring it to Eswatini. But it's not easy to buy a sofa from Eswatini and take it to South Africa. That should speak volumes. That they protect their own products. For you to take a sofa to South Africa, you end up paying maybe 3 times the price. So in a way, it's saying, don't bring your things here. We've got our own. Please take our own. So we don't need only to promote entrepreneurs, but let's also protect the industry. I like the fact that Mr. Dlamini here is saying they are bringing in SWASA to deal with issues. That's a very serious issue, because if you look at the exposure and the exposure that people now have onto the international market, people know, like I said in the beginning, people know what they want. When they come to you for a product, they know exactly what they want. So I think working with entrepreneurs and also working with Buy Local and working with SWASA, it will bring us to another level where we can talk of exporting as a country. And as a result of that, we're now talking about the growth in GDP of the country. Thank you.
Mr. Makakola, what should we introduce maybe from a legal perspective to protect local from the international market, like he says, maybe from a legal perspective?
Thank you, Mr. Abuza. I think it's very important that, as Mr. Dlamini has said, that promotion of local business also means that we also create legislation that will cover the local market. I know that sometimes when we adopt laws, we always benchmark with other jurisdictions. But I believe that the trend should be when we try to customize some of these laws, let us take into cognizance what the real-time Yemaswati are and have, so that at least whatever legislation we then enact, they come to protect what Yemaswati truly reflect and inspire. And I think moving out probably just a bit, a typical example, I think we have laws that try to protect your kind of dating and all that, which are good. But some of these laws, you see them that now you don't know. Ushela intombi segu now ilandzela segu criminal noma sekunjani. Yet most of Yemaswati lemakhaya athi nje ukuthi kufuna ngibele kabili kathathu. So some of these things then you see now that you have stalking and everything, and this is taboo to Yemaswati. We don't know what stalking is. But I think we have to find the balance to say, when we now say we are promoting local, we don't then again scare away us trying to promote our own, because we just blanket take some of this legislation, because obviously if we protect local, we will benchmark somewhere. But let's benchmark at least understanding the political culture, or the social culture, and the economic culture of the people. I think that is what is important. Let's look at the culture of the nation and then benchmark our laws in accordance with the appetite of the Yemaswati.
Maybe before I thank you so much. Before I open for hands, ngibona ngathi khona bekushisa Baba Khumalo in this question. Now bafuna kusho in relation to this. Noma khona bonako lokunye. Okay, fine. Okay. Makehle ngethu. Kukhona lo ufuna ukusho ngakavule litandla. Now. All right, thank you so much. Ngicela sibashayele litandla. This is the I'm not sure what usekhona ni Babe Phiri on the line. But I think if there are questions directed to him, you can still pose them. We are having him here on the line if we are not able to have him here. So please feel free to ask any question from anyone. Lapha sinema experts and sinebantu laba on the ground who are working, and lokukahle ukuthi baletha different insights into this. So ungabuta nje so that we have it. And lo mbuto lona noma ngaba usawubutelwe wathi ubute nje ngoba ukhanza ukuthi thina Swati wena ubutena le consumer lehlete nyalo ngoba siya live stream, we are live on channel Yemaswati, we are also live on digitally. So na ubuta ungacabanga ukuthi ubutela wena ubute nje noma ngabe uyathi, but wathi ukuthi athi consumer ngathanza kwathi ke lokho, but to clarify. Siyabonga. Thank you so much. Ngicala from Consumer Forum ngiyathanda ukukunika ngoba uhamba nababenjekala uma Consumer Forum ngabe sesengiyeda ukhona lomunye wesithathu ngothatha nje letandla ngoba uta director kubantu bobuzi naba bemaphanga ukhona la was 3. All right, in that order. Don't have one mic.
Greetings. My name is Nontetsele Longambule. I'm the Vice Chairperson of the Swaziland Consumer Forum. My first question will be directed to Babe Phiri. I would have loved to know the Consumer Protection Act that they have in Zimbabwe, in Zambia, so that maybe they can assist us as a country in trying to copy them and improve them in our own country. And then I have an interest to Babe Makakula's presentation. I believe law should be more preventive and protect us other than rescuing us when we're already in crisis. And now when you are highlighting these laws that we are having that are said to be protecting the consumer, but you are saying they don't have regulations. As a young person, I get to have a question. Who is supposed to formulate these regulations really for the implementation of this act? Because they are not really helpful if they're going to be there and they can't be implemented. And Megan Hlengetwa, she spoke about the access to justice for a number of us. We are here, we remember that consumers are we're not just having the conscious consumers only. We also have this that are not really aware, or some of them are even illiterate. They don't know their rights. And about Noguti, what are they supposed to do if they encounter problems? How popular is the education on the consumer rights? I know I'm from an organization that is supposed to be doing that awareness, but then we live in a country whereby consumer rights really are not that popular. And our act and as in laws nje, people they find taboo. It as a taboo to question things in our country. So now when you expect me from Loma Hashe, nelbangi that have mistreated me, I don't even know and I don't even have the capacity to take them to court because anengs and connect afford the legal representative that I will need there. And I'm also even scared of the outcomes that can happen there because so what if I find myself to be in the wrong and I actually being the one supposed to pay, now paying this bank, these people, they have money, I have nothing in my own name. Now, and then to Mr. Musega's presentation, you are talking of 2035 consumer and institutional readiness. We are in a dynamic world. We are tapping into the digital space and people are becoming more aware of what they want as from your presentation. And for me, that says now we are talking technological infusion. And now my question is, are we ready for the advocacy of the technological laws that comes with that? Because now when you say people are tapping into the digital space, it means you also have to protect them digitally. You have to protect them from data breaches and everything. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I think let me. All of them.
Yeah, let's just take let's take them.
Thank you very much, Program Director. My name is Lungile Makakula. I'm the Director of Eswatini Legal Aid. And as an office that looks after people with, who are indigent in terms of their legal, addressing their legal problems. I wanted to pose a challenge to the House to say part of the challenges that we are encountering here, particularly with regard to the consumer, is that where sectors are driven by profits as opposed to people-centric, kind of services, it becomes a challenge because even withholding the different sectors accountable on the unfair practices and unjust practices becomes another challenge because we are all in our different corners. Dr. Seka had actually mentioned that the issue around collecting data is very critical. And I want to pose this challenge to ask in the House Competition Commission, what sort of data do you have in terms of the sectors that are the ones that are most likely perpetuating, this injustice to consumers, first and foremost? And I'll also make an example. Sometimes the law is in place, the courts have pronounced themselves, there's jurisprudence, but for some reason a sector continues to do things as they've always done because it's uncomfortable to re-engineer the whole sector. And I'll take just one. The financial institutions are happy to continue as they did prior to the enactment of the Constitution because it's convenient for them. As a woman, when you walk in, they will tell you, get your spousal consent. When we know Section 21 already has actually, provides for the right to equality. And the courts have clearly pronounced themselves on that no woman, whether married in community of property, is expected to get any spousal consent for purposes of access to, credit or whatever other, or even acquiring property, but it still happens today. Now the challenge is who is responsible, because Deputy Commissioner, as a human rights commissioner, is saying, well, the mandate is within the commission for that. But until someone comes and wants to vindicate that right, so much injustice goes. And until that one consumer faces off with the bank and says, no, you're not going to do that, the bank will be happy to change that because they don't want the noise and continue once you are gone to do as they are doing. Even if we were to do the assessment today, we'll still find that it's still happening. Consumers are still subjected to that. Just because they're not vindicating their right, nothing is still happening. So who is the one in this room responsible for actually ensuring that sectors are actually moving towards people-centric kind of services that actually ensures that the rights of consumers are actually, upheld? There are so many examples that have been made in the House, which prompts us to say, beyond this conference, what are the steps that we're going to be taking to ensure that consumer rights really become consumer rights and people are actually vindicated without having, because they come from different social backgrounds. One may be able to actually vindicate their right, another may not even know the right exists, and therefore will not be able to vindicate it. Are we saying the only ones that get justice are those that already know their rights and are able to vindicate them? Or we should be the mouthpiece of those that do not actually have a voice? Thank you.
Okay, the last one after this, we just give the panel again, then we'll take that one.
Thank you. My question goes to Mr. Makakula. I think my question got about in part, but the theme, but in terms of the law, you'll find that the law is implemented in a robust manner. This shall be in place immediately when gazetted by the minister. Where's the just transition? We're just looking at the theme. Where's this just transition to say, kodwa ngithi nje nathatha iminyaka le mithathu nifundzisa lesive and kancane letting go. Who's responsible for that? The law doesn't have that maybe, but who's responsible for the just transition in those? Because I know ignorance of the law is no excuse, isn't it? But sithi ngale ndzaba yale just transition. So ngifuna ukubuza lokho. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Mr. Piri is ready to answer. If you can ask the team to show him here, but if they are not able to, and I will hand over to Siboni, the acting on from the Lungile, on who is responsible, and then I will give the panel after this. So she will read out Mr. Piri's answer, and then answer that one as well.
Good afternoon. We're trying to get Mr. Piri first. So if we can't hear him, then I'll read out his answer because I have him on chat. So let's try to get Mr. Piri. Thank you. As I answer the other question, thank you very much for the question. And it resonates with the discussion we've been having about having a large elephant in the room. And someone is holding the ear, someone is holding the tail, someone is holding the trunk. And together with what Magan Hlengetwa said from the Commission on Human Rights, it requires a consolidated effort by all of us to bring us together to the table, because I have information, Consumers Forum has information, SWASA has information, Environmental Authority has information, but we don't know how to bring this information together, consolidate it, and see how to move. Legal aid has information, because you see all the complaints that come to you, they don't come to us. Earlier in the room when Central Bank was speaking, they spoke about when a consumer comes to the Ombuds for Financial Services, but it's supposed to go to the Ombuds for the banking sector, but it's supposed to go to the Competition Commission. Among the three of us, we have that relationship where we're able to sit around the table and say, we have this particular complaint, we believe it falls under your mandate. But clearly there is an opportunity for a larger group at the table to say, legal aid has said, I have a consumer who came in and they have this complaint, and who is best placed to action it, or even to say, has it been dealt with in the past? Because if we don't consolidate our efforts to fight for consumers' rights, then we'll have recidivism by actors. The bank will keep giving you an agreement that's not great because they dealt with one customer. They didn't deal on a sector-wide basis. So I would invite you to come to the commission and we'll convene a meeting with Magan Hlengetwa, and we'll convene a meeting with Mbabane Jagala, na Magan Kambule, Sisi Kambule, I think, the vice chair, Sisi no Mag. Youth. So we'll convene a meeting and see how to get everybody on board and get the conversation moving. Does that answer your question?
All right.
Thank
you very much. Let's give the panel this to answer. Dr. Msega, there was a question, especially with regards to digital space. Are we ready? But I'm not sure who can answer the one on the consumers not having sometimes the capacity to take on institutions. But also, okay, Margaret Hlengetwa was going to look into that. Mr. Makakula, there were two questions. I think the other one was the law being proactive, and then the other one was the transition by Mr. Mapan. But the panelists are free to add.
Okay, thank you so much. Are we ready to take up technology? The answer is yes. Why do I say yes? During COVID, we saw an abrupt transition from manual system to technology. Some of the systems that were introduced were not refined systems. That's why we saw them collapsing collapsing post-COVID. So that is the only difference. So the other thing that we need to note is operate in a global space. And in the global space, if you note, the voice of the customer has become very loud, especially on social media. I spoke of an advocate earlier on to say our customers can be advocate. We can also have negative advocates for institutions. Someone will just go online and they start speaking negatively about an institution. So the voice of the customer is growing very loud, and we don't have an option as the industry apart from us understanding and taking time to invest on understanding and collecting data from our customers. I also want to comment a bit on the consolidated effort here. I think that is the missing link in Eswatini. That is the missing link. We've got so many people in the house that are doing a lot of good things, but we're doing all this in silos. I've been running the Customer Service Awards for the past 9 years. And in that space, we have fought with the institutions. Some would think we want to demonize their brands and so on. We've fought with people that want to bribe themselves through to be awarded. And a lot has happened. And all those issues, they're speaking to consumers. And we got into that space not for anything, but because we've declared ourselves customer service advocates. And in advocates, all of us here, we have got a role to play. Like she was rightfully saying, there's an elephant in the room. Someone is holding on to the ear, someone is holding on to the leg. I think we really need to convene a meeting. We need to put our consumers first and come up with something. I've muted an idea for a long time of us coming with the Eswatini Customer Service Index. One that is going to show in institutions that are giving us the best service. A local net promoter score where we are going to be able to judge and look at our own institutions. I've personally come up with a model for measurement of customer satisfaction, but it's something that is still somewhere within my database, which has not been put there to test for people to experience that. So I think there's a lot that we need to do, and we need to come together and work together. We should understand that we are not in competition, but we are complementing each other. And rightfully, what we want to do at the end of the day is we want to have a consumer that is satisfied and that is happy with our services and products that are being offered in the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mabuza. I think there's the question on the legislative protectiveness and proactiveness. I think as a response, we can all appreciate that I think we operate within a constitutional democracy, that the work of enacting any laws is the preserve of parliament. And I think we know that before any law is passed, there's always those consultations and lobbying and all that before any act of parliament comes into the fore. And I think with all the stakeholders involved that are involved to say, can we have your input on such and such legislation before that act of parliament then is then passed. I think for us in the legal fraternity, it is then once whatever that law is passed, it is then to interpret it as well as the courts. That's what they do. But I think it is probably as we elect our parliamentarians and those who are at the forefront of this to impress on the speedily probably enactment of these laws, in particular from the informed perspective of these stakeholders as well that are responsible, so that we don't enact a law that is piecemeal. As we are saying, if you enact a law that is seeking to protect consumers, but it's not fully enacted, where some aspects are missing, then it provides a challenge, as we are saying. So I think it's a concern that ought to be raised probably to legislators to say, when you enact these laws, ensure that if they need to go with their regulations, that also should be factored in. But again, we understand that when you then create these legislations, obviously, it goes to the issue of the transition now to say, you have to take cognizance to say, if now we are saying we are changing the whole contract system of a bank that has been created over 20 years, then it means there must be time afforded and given to these institutions to then reconcile and start changing the whole spectrum. It does provide a challenge from what you are saying, to say, if you say effective immediately, that's not possible, because there are then certain internal changes that need to be happen, and they cannot happen overnight. So I think it's that source of awareness again, to say in our legislators, it's not always feasible to say probably in terms of how laws are enacted, the writing is standard. It comes into effect immediately, but we know that its implementation then is always affected by those other incidental issues that have to be factored in. So I think it poses a challenge, but it can be rectified by that kind of allowance, to say, allow these changes then to happen, so that as to accommodate the transitions in the new law.
We don't seem to be okay. As they continue, maybe let's continue. There was one on capacity.
Thank you. I think there were two. Okay, maybe flowing from the previous two panelists, I'd like to address the issue of access to justice. We have a constitution which is who's 20 years old now. And as a commission, we still do not have an enabling legislation, which becomes a challenge. But it hasn't stopped us from working, hoping that no one will challenge us. I'm looking at you because I know. But having said what I've said, there are strides that are being made. I mentioned the legal aid bill, and the legal aid bill is bringing in some very important aspects that will help us in terms of access to justice, and one of them is the issue of pro bono services, and also the office of the director itself offering services, but I'm sure that it's not going to be services to anybody and everybody. We are going to be looking at those that cannot afford legal services but have a strong case, or especially for us as the commission, in terms of major violations of their rights, so that they can have access to justice. We do have, and I'm happy to report that we now have the Leadership Code of Conduct. It's a bill. We are going to be coming to you, and we are going to be talking to those issues that are talking about accountability and transparency, and the especially on the people with regards to people who are in high office or duty bearers within the country. So that is a positive, and it is actually saying to us we are moving forward as a country, and Dr. Mtseha has talked about that index. That index, I think, also we still need to work together, and I don't know whether it came out very clear that it's not just human rights that we're concerned about, but we're also looking at public administration. I even compared it to the public protector or the office of the ombudsman of the civil service, which is now talking to issues of service delivery. And for service delivery to actually happen, we also need a proper legislation that is actually going to say, civil service, give us that customer care charter. The customer care charter is talking to services. How are you, Home Affairs, how are you delivering services? And we are going to have an index, or are going to have standards, and I'm sure the gentlemen from Standards Authority that are going to say, if this is good work, it must have done A, B, C, D, E. So, and again, we have a big dream that one day that will happen, and the awards would be held at the highest level. of government, which is the Right Honorable Prime Minister being the one that is actually giving those awards. In terms of capacity building, we are available. You can invite us. Tomorrow we're going to a community meeting. They've invited us. Yes, we are thin on the ground, but we try as much as we can to make sure that we provide those services. Then I won't talk to the one that was posed by the director. Because I choose not to. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe I should be the one who will spearhead the forum that we were talking about earlier on, bringing all of you together. Because okay,
sorry. I can safely say that. Hello? Okay. We as a commission, because we have this oversight mandate, can be the convener. I think it was mentioned. And I think this is saying to me, come Monday, because it's already late, come Monday, I should be getting something done. And like we have said, that we are late, but it's never late. We can still work together. And that is very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Margaret Leggett was going to get us back here at the Hilton for that meeting. Thank you very much. Mr. Piri, can you hear? Are you on the line? Can you speak? All right, yeah. Can you please read the answer? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm reading the response to Langambule's question from the Vice Chairperson for Consumer Forum. She asked, what is the act that they use in Zambia for consumer protection? And I'm reading Mr. Masauso Piri's response. His response is that the regime in Zambia is that we have sector-specific regulators, for example, energy, banking, food safety, and others, which have applicable consumer protection provisions. And then at the Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, we utilize the Consumer Protection Act, which is the overarching law for all of consumer protection. Under this law, the Competition and Consumer Protection Commission can investigate any consumer case in any sector, and typically we work together with the sector regulators. The important thing to note is that as the law is being implemented, some of the weaknesses are noted and amendments are then proposed and implemented. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the contribution by the panelists. With the powers vested in me by today's program, I close this panel discussion.
FSRA.
I'm giving
FSRA. Has a question.
Oh, they have a question. Oh, Nanjagal. Challenge my powers. Ngunika 10 seconds. Fast. We've got 5 minutes before we close. We're a commission that keeps time.
Thank you very much. Gevagal?
Yes.
Oh, thank you very much. Maybe mine is a comment. Maybe before I say my comment, I just want to thank the panelists and the colleagues in the room for the insights shared. A comment yami it's as we are seated in this room, we need not distance ourselves go Consumer Credit Act, because songela we are consumers in this room. We need to familiarize ourselves with the Consumer Credit Act, because it has a lot to protect consumers. When you look at the Consumer Credit Act, it speaks about prohibited credit practices, which protects wonalama consumers. We are consumers in our respective corners here. So we need to read the Consumer Credit Act and understand it. so that we can even share with our friends and relatives at home. I'll just make a classical example of i-Consumer Credit Act. It speaks about i-credit harassment. Ukhanza ukuthi ukoleta umuntu and people come and harass you even at work. Asakuhambela emsebentini. The Consumer Credit Act prohibits such. You go to a financer or a credit provider. You take up a loan. Naso ufuna kuyicedza le loan yakho. Bakutshele ukuthi badala i-settlement fee. All that is contained in the Consumer Credit Act to say, are you supposed to pay i-settlement fee? Naso uthi usettlisha sikweleti sakho. So my comment is that let us just familiarize ourselves with the Consumer Credit Act. We will benefit from it.
Sanbonan once again. One is directed to Mr. Esasko. If you read the theme and having an understanding of Gutsi, how savings and how SACCOs are rescuing debt-ridden consumers, it seems like it's two extremes rather. And what I want to ask is, as a SASCO, as a body, how do you find ourselves in a space whereby you start communicating a direction of wealth creation as well? Because you find yourself in a space whereby there's people I've interacted with, actually Gutunama savings are 200,000, and that person is clearly not in debt. But as understanding how a SACCO works, it leverages on the savings and also EMA loans that people take against the SACCO. And you find that people sabale credit to that point whereby atsumuntu ngahlengna savings among is funje skwelede. So how do we start introducing the transition? Good see people start understanding what types of credit to take, because you find good umuntu unama savings in Gumbi and a benefiter the SACCO, and there's no way that you can save your. I want to ask, how do you introduce that from a SACCO perspective to the respective SACCOs? Good see, I'm sorry to say this, but bantu baboleki mali to sustain the SACCO and but to sustain themselves as well, because the reality of the times and inflation and everything else that affects consumer spending, the money is not enough. I just want to ask Logutsi, what is the transition and the communication from your end in terms of, could say, how do people find themselves in a space whereby they are encouraged to go move in the line of wealth management as well? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Program Director, and thank you very much to everyone. My first question really is not a question. I have comments. Mostly of my issues here are just comments, but it will go on to Mr. Phiri, but I think Esera Utaipendura because it's on energy. Around the SADC region, solar energies sengiwulangenile and kune complain yokuthi akasi alright onke nale warrant yawo lesesikunotisile la khaya eSwatini uthola ukuthi lenye it's 3 months lenye it's so I question lesingaba nayo la ukuthi sinayo yini I mechanism in place in the SADC region le monitor la solar energy appliances and the productions are. Nitabese ngibuya ku Dr. to you Dr. Museka, you talked about protection of products, local products, which is a very good idea because we want to go to seven. However, ngita quote nje some of these issues lesesike our experience. Imbiva beef Lagangwane, ibita about 99 rand, average 99 rand per kilo. But in South Africa, the same, ibita around 59 rand per kilo. So are we protecting Emma products or are we protecting some form of monopoly? Kulawo ma situations now. Umbila. Umbila la kangwani uyasdurela. Impuphu and so forth kuyasdurela. But now kuthenga South Africa kuba cheaper. But we are talking about buy local, or are we talking about buy monopolized local products? It's very important logo ukuthi sikubukete logo because it's an issue lese sikhulumise nema sectors lamanenge including i-National Maize Corporation ngokuthi we want to survive. So ngeke usifostere ukuthi sithenge la silimala khona. I'll come to law society. To you sir. Kube nomthetho lapha lokuthiwa i-Fair Trade Dealing Act, I think ema 1960s naseyikhumbula kahle. And leyo mthetho loyo na ufunza kahle she awu protect ema consumers, u protect ema traders. So kuthi around 2014 i-government yahirisha as consultant from South Africa, whereby nathi sa invite ukuthi sibe khona na kwakhiwa a National Consumer Protection Bill ya draft leyo bill. Leyo bill leyo nasiyilandzela because we were part of le now. Kwakhanzakala ukuthi most of lama issues la khulunyiswako lapho asimila kulama issues ya ale act yase South Africa yama consumers. And kuleyo nangileyo ngidawubuya kuma ke enhlengethwa njena kula ke akuthinza kulama universal rights of consumers, they are about 7. Kuleyo act leyo abakhona onke la oyi7 kule bill nayakhiwa leyo nayidraft leyo bill. Unfortunately angiyathi yashelveka kuphi because yayivele iqonze ku protect ema consumers. So I think ngolokwaenda bese ibekwe side. Kwabese kusetshenziswa le Fair Trade Dealing Act kwabese kungedwa nje some portions to please the consumers, which unfortunately it doesn't serve the interest of the consumers. If umake lesitaqela kuwe nje make enhlengethwa uthi uke uyibuke le Fair Trade Dealing Act ukuthi inawo yini oyi7 lama universal rights of consumers. Unfortunately I doubt it exist. So what I'm trying to say like ukuthi we don't have umthetho lo protector ema consumers kuwabeka kuleli zinga lokuthi the 7 universal rights of consumers abe included. If usivile ku Mr Phiri lana kakhuluma kuthi kunalo mthetho lo bese uba la ngetulu wema consumers akhona lama segments on the bottom, but kunalo mthetho we were expecting ukuthi the National Consumer Protection Act ngiyo le leta ugatsa konke makukwakhulumisa nelokufaka imali and so forth kube khona lo mthetho lo by umbrella yayo yonke le issue le. Otherwise lema piece sitachubeka naloko vele khanze ukuthi sesisebenza sima piece njengaloko bese sitakulungisa nasikhulumisa la. Angwathi ke lona noma utawuya kuphi keja utawuhenga nje. Sesiyibonile iissue yekugembula lokugembula netinkingo and so forth and sekusifake ukhanze kusukunema suicides lamanengi. My question is ukhona yini umthetho lo guide ukugembula in our country ngokuthi ngoba tinkampani nje ngilethe uthi yathi uve ukuthi sekugembulwe emahashi in so ukhona yini, do we have umthetho yokuprotecta labantu because at the end of the day every day sitawufunza ngama suicides lapha phela. Ngicela kuma khona lapho.
Thank you very much, Mr. Njagala. Ladies and gentlemen, the time now is 1:06. I'm the type of a program director that becomes embarrassed when I stand before you way after the time of the meeting. It's we are late by 6 minutes already. I will ask from the panelists to get 30 seconds each, only if there is something that you are going to respond to quickly. But if there is none, just pass the mic. 30 seconds, please. I'm embarrassed by time. Thank you. That side.
Thank you, Program Director. I think we have a way forward. The fact that we've decided that we need to come together and work, and we need to amplify the voice of the customer. It is constant noise that brings change. So we need to amplify the voice of the customer so that we force change. And the issue of monopoly from a customer advocate's perspective, it doesn't do any good to customers. So we need to amplify the voice. We need to come together. We need to make a lot of noise until the noise knocks onto the right doors.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's Pete Nkwe. Oh.
Thank you so much, Program Director, for the moment. I think for the question that was posed towards SASCO, with regards to some members having so much savings but without doing anything, I would love to respond that at SASCO we have transitioned, or we are transitioning to a point whereby long time ago you'll find that savings, they are only good for the poor and the mid class, and then the high class, they go for investments and the like. But I would love to say that we go beyond financial literacy, and we also then get into a point of financial wellness. Then financial wellness, then it includes counseling or special counseling for the high savers, the members that have got high savings, with regards to directing and helping them how they can use or utilize their resources and continue to increase their assets accordingly. And to some extent that they are advised and they are guided accordingly. I think that's what I can say. Thank you.
Thank you. The last status. Oh, we're done. Oh.
Thank you. Just want to respond to you. I think as the nation has laws regarding gambling and operation of gambling activities. So all those operating those kind of work are licensed within the country, and there are regulations concerning that. It's only a question that people should familiarize themselves with them, and there are guiding principles insofar as who should gamble and what should happen. And then also, I think the lastly, I think a point you have in terms of one overarching legislation insofar as the consumer protection is concerned. But I think from where we are speaking, the in terms of what is needed to probably protect consumers in various sectors, the country has made those strides, and we should appreciate that.
Thank you very much. At this point in time, my panel is done. All right, thank you. We are going to ask for, there are 3 items now that are remain. No, please remain seated. I'm going to ask the acting CEO for a certain commission to come forward, joined by the Ombudsman, Magas Melane, but also Nigele Mahemba said for guest said and speakers for the day. And then there is this survey. Oh. There's this survey that was popping up here. So scan, you can scan from where you are seated and then fill, it's just 2 minutes thing, just fill in that survey. It will help us in terms of feedback. Also, if you want to pose questions for the speakers or say something, even you will use that same platform. From there. And then after the members, then I will ask OFS to close. Thank you. All right, thank you so much. Abasafuni kuvala manje baphathi bami la. Siyabonga kakhulu ama lunch vouchers labangawatholi aku-Andile. Where is Andile? Andile is here. Utawuma by the door when you go out, but nyalo sicela a quick group picture with all of you. This has been nice. Make sure that these banners are here. If just come here, I know we can find a way. It's possible. And then ngicela ukuthi sisenda kanjalo ngoba basenda ne survey engicela munye baphathi bama etatovala atosivalela kahle officially. From my part ngiyabonga kakhulu ukubambisana nekungihlonipha ngisaqondisa lihlelo. It was a pleasure to work with you and next time sitawusebenzisana ngicela saluvala.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Eswatini Competition Commission and the Ombudsman for Financial Services, we would like to once again extend our deepest appreciation for the wonderful interactions we've had today, and also to say thank you to our virtual participants as well, from the Competition and Consumer Protection Commission in Zambia. We will find a way to get your coffee to you, Mr. Phiri. I have two big takeaways from the meeting today. The first one is that we are all in agreement that there has to be a concerted effort towards protecting consumers, and that we also have to be the first enforcers of our rights as consumers to demand customer service and excellence when we engage with business. The second one is that there will be a meeting to be convened by our stakeholders at a level to be decided amongst them, but we look forward to having you again in the meeting, maybe not at the Hilton, Mr. Mangoba, but somewhere that will be efficient for us to convene and to find a way to move forward as stakeholders. To this end, I hope that we've all managed to register. If you've not registered, please find Neliswa in the back of the room. Neliswa, raise your hand. She will be the one to make sure that we have your email address and that the stakeholders that will convene the meeting will do the needful to engage and to set up the meeting. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time and we appreciate your interactions, and God bless you. Thank you.
Kanzi ke masadla mahle sesifike emaphethelweni awumsebenzi we-World Consumer Rights Day. Ngethembe ukuthi niwutfokotele futhi ke sonke sifundzele okuningi njengama-consumers ukuthi amalungelo ethu eme ngakuphi, nokuthi mangabe sekukhona ke inkinga lekhona kuphi la ubheka ngakhona uyawuhlaba inyanza leyo. Msakade Yemaswati ukulethela umsebenzi lona bukhoma ngabo ke baka Competition Commission kanye ne-Ombudsman of Financial Services. Nifisela ilanga lelihle nalegcwele tibusiso, nisaleni kahle.